Good day, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this book review of the 9th edition Orc Codex with the limited edition Codex that came from the Beast Snaga's box. Today I wanted to feature not only the book but the reference cards, so we're going to do just a quick little walkthrough, and we're going to go ahead and just take a peek through. I'm going to share some of my opinions, my thoughts as I read them. I did read through the Codex yesterday with my buddies after I did my unboxing video, and we were talking about some of the stuff we like and don't like, and so I'm going to share some of those thoughts with you guys today. As you guys are watching this, if you hear me say anything that I don't like but that you do like about the book, and you're like, hey, no, this can work with this can work with that, please let me know. Please comment, because I would love to try out some of these things and see if I can use them strategically better for my 9th edition games. Otherwise, you know, if it's something that I do like and you don't like, please feel free to comment as well, but not just because, oh no, those are icky, they're not that good, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't necessarily play the prime optimal lists. I just try to play what I've got and in good order. So, all right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom in over here, and then we're going to go ahead and adjust the camera, and we're going to adjust the lights. We're going to start off with the deck of cards. Now, first off, you know, kind of fun little look of the box, you know, all those things. I personally haven't looked at the cards in their order. One of my colleagues did, but I had them keep them in order, so this is exactly how they'll print out of the box. So, starting off with is Smite, good old, the generic psychic power. So we're doing the psychic powers first. This is Ed Banger, which is, you know, roll d6, and if it's higher than the toughness of the characteristic unit, they suffer d6 mortal wounds. This one's same as before. I think a lot of the first WA, the power of the WA discipline, are the same. They did add another WA for another Psyker list for the Beast WA. So Warpath adds 1 attack to models in that unit. So that's one of my go-to favorite ones. The jump, you know, deep striking guys. But notice it only says for core units now. So once again, they have crippled the ability, because now you can't port yourself. That was a trick that people would do. They would have their weird boy towards the end of the game to jump himself, jump on objectives and get around the board and stay safe. You can't do that anymore. You can only do that to core units. So yeah, that's kind of a shame, but you know, it's how they do things. Fist of Gork, +2 to strength and attack models, to strength and attack characteristics of a character, and if the psychic result was 11 or more, make it add 3 instead. So that's a nice one if you're running a beat stick and kind of running almost what you call it, like just completely blanked. The thing where you have a lots of like super elite pack of guys that just slam into things. So you have the weird boy hang out behind and pump up your war boss or something. So, and a crunch. It's a d6 for every model in a unit, and on a 6 except for a mortal wound. And if your psychic test is a 9 or more, then it's on a roll of a 5 that they take mortal wounds. So nice little anti-horde, but really I don't think orcs need a lot of help with anti-horde, because their hordes can do better against other hordes, but you know. And Jabbing Fingers. So this one I think is a newer one. I didn't really do a lot with my psychers in the previous edition because I just didn't own the model. So I finally made one out of scratch. So I'm thinking this one sounds new. It's -1 to an enemy unit's hit rolls. So, and that's anytime they make an attack. So shooting or melee. So that can be nice to slow down a enemy gun line or whatnot. All right, Beast Head Discipline. Now these are the new psycho powers for the Beast WA boys. So Roar of Mork. So you have Fist of Gork, Roar of Mork. Select one enemy unit within 18 inches invisible to the psyker. Subtract 2 from advance and charge rolls. And until your next psychic phase. Oh yeah, if it's manifested, okay, you get to do both. While an enemy unit is within 18 inches of this psyker, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of models in that unit. So basically, he punishes one unit and makes it slower, and then everyone around him is more crippled leadership-wise. You know, that's great, all except for, you know, that since 3/4 of the armies out there are Space Marines and they don't really care about leadership. That's great. The slowdown's more important. Frazzle. Warp charge is 6. If manifested, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit that is within 9 inches of the psyker. On a 4-up, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Now, I know that there is a new, one of the new chariot wagons they're having called a kill rig, which will actually have a psyker on it. And since you want your chariots to go slamming into folks, this one might be really handy to go with that character so that you can ram them in, and then during the next turn on the psychic phase, you can blast this and take out a bunch of guys doing a bunch of extra mortal wounds. So that could be a thing. I'm not sure if it is the thing, but a thing. Biting jaws. I almost read that as another word. I almost added a ch in there. I'm like, those are awesome jaws. But it has a warp challenge value of 6. If manifested, one A model is within 18 inches of the psyker. Draw a line between you guys, and okay, so it's anything between you and that model. Any unit suffers a mortal wound. So, just a little laser beam. So, just one mortal wound. Not really exciting. And Spirit of Gork. Oh, okay. So they have Gork and Mork as well, which, of course, Gork and Mork go hand in hand. Like peanut butter and jelly, if they hurt you. Okay, so if manifested, select a friendly Squig unit within 12 inches invisible to the psyker. And each time that unit fights, you may make one additional attack with the jaw attack from the riders. So Big Champa, Squig Hog, Smasher Squig, Squigosaur. That's the name of all the new Squigs of different sizes. That's Big Champa. The guy in the book cover is a Squig Hog. So they all get one extra attack, and each time a model that unit makes an attack with those weapons, unmodified wound roll 6 inflicts a mortal wound in addition. So I would definitely take this one if I was going to get more Squigs and run more of a Squig herd. As I'll get into it later, they definitely are pushing snake bites, and they're pushing all the new Squig models. So you're going to definitely see some good solid lists that feature all the Squig boys. But we'll see how it goes. Beast Scent, a malediction. So select an enemy unit within 18 inches of the psyker, cast charge value 5. Until your next psychic phase, the enemy does not receive the benefits of cover against attacks made by Beast Snag units from your army. That can be handy. If you're running more of a gun line, and if you're trying to run some stuff that are... I don't have all the new Beast Snag stuff set up, but I know they have a couple of things that can do some shooting, so that can help. And, melee, I don't think orcs really need to worry too much about cover in melee, because they can tend to, pile it and bury people anyway, so... And the Squiggly Curse. Yes, this was the one they featured on the Warhammer Community channel. And that's a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select an enemy unit within 12 inches of this psyker, and then roll d6 for each model in that unit. For each 4-up, that unit suffers a mortal wound. If any models in this unit are destroyed by the psychic power, every other enemy unit within 6 inches of that unit suffer 1 mortal wound. So basically the idea is it turns people into squigs, and then they run off and they bite other people. That's kind of nice. Actually, I think this is also a good anti-horde, but in another way, because when hordes spread out, especially early game, if they can get in and target a unit, it's only a 12-inch range, so it probably won't work as well, but if you have your castling going on, you have like a 10 or 20-man unit kind of blocking off a bunch of other guys, target that 20-man unit, do a bunch of mortals, kill 1 or 2 guys, and then every other unit that they're protecting take mortal wounds. 1 mortal wound's not much, but anything can help, especially if you've been focus firing on other features, and you can possibly push that 1 last wound through, so that could be good. So that's the end of the Psyker abilities, and this one I noticed it doesn't actually say, whoa, too close, Beast Head. I think this one is literally on the Warboys' personal, I was about to say War Scroll from Age of Sigmar, I've been playing that so much lately, their data sheet, so I think you have to have the Warboy to access the Squiggly Curse. So now we're going into the stratagems. So it's doing the clan-specific one. So Goths get Unbridled Carnage. Units from your army have the No Mucking About clan culture. The ones that have it, so you select one of those units. The No Mucking About I'll go into later, but that's basically there. If they roll a 6, they get to add an additional hit when they do a 2-hit roll. So basically every 6 explodes, as they call it, and they get to do 2 hits for 1. On this one, it says until the end of the phase, at the time a model in this unit makes an attack, it scores an additional hit on a 5-up instead of 6. So it can double the opportunity, but it's 2 command points. So unless you are absolutely needing that unit to go down, it says Goth core or character, but I don't really feel like the characters have enough attacks to really justify it, because you got 4 attacks, you have a less than 1 chance of getting another extra hit. So it could be something, but I usually don't run Goths anyways, because believe it or not, I don't actually own enough boys. I only own 70 boys. Anyways, Bad Moons, showing off. Select a core character when they're selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Each time that model makes an attack with a DACA weapon, which is a new feature, which most of you probably heard about, but I'll talk about it when I get into the book. An unmodified hits roll of 6 scores an additional hit, so exploding 6s on DACA weapons, which most of the Orc units, Orc shooting, change into that. So, okay, I guess they just switched away from doing the other, because every one of the clans got a stratagem, but I guess they just do those 2 first. It's not even alphabetized. So, Kareen, this one I think is a hilarious one. This was one yesterday I read that I liked. Use a stratagem in any phase when an Orc vehicle model in your army that is not within engagement range of any enemy models is destroyed and explodes. So basically if they're shot down or psychic down or something and they explode. That model can make a normal move up to 6 inches before resolving the explosion. If that vehicle is a Wagon or a Titanic model, the stratagem costs 2, otherwise it costs 1. So basically what happens, and all the guys in the shop, they're like, kamikaze! But yeah, you can use that, and you can use it in 2 different ways. Obviously, you run up forward, you shoot your opponent, and then they, open fire, destroy your guy. You can, if it actually explodes, you can peel out right into their lines, and then do the D3 mortal wounds to everything in 6 inches or what have you. You can also use it defensively, because in my tournament I went to a couple weeks ago, I had one game where I had 2 of my vehicles explode in the same game, which I've never had happen before, and one of them happened first turn in the middle of my lines, and so I did a ton of damage to everything all around my army, and I was like, oh no, that sucks. But if I had this, then I would have had him careen forward 6 inches, and then nobody would have got hurt. I just would have lost the unit, and then after it careens, then you do your dump out, so it can actually dump more people out forward as well. I just thought about that too. So you can use that to get your boys or your occupants further along the table or wherever you need them to go. So I really like this stratagem. It's sad that you have to pay 2 command points for wagons, because I pretty much run a battle wagon on a truck. So, but it's still a thing, and definitely something I'll be using probably quite a bit. So get stuck in, lads. This used to be fight again, and unfortunately it's not. This is just all you do is you gain an additional 3-inch pile in or consolidation, so you can move another 3 inches. And you have to do it when a unit from your army is selected to fight, and each time the unit piles in or consolidates, it can move up to an additional 3 inches. So it's kind of nice. You can still it's not really slingshotting so much, but say you have your unit and you're targeting something that only has 1 model left, and you need them to go beyond that model, you can 3-inch, you can do 6 inches, wrap around him, and still tag the one guy, kill him, and then when you consolidate, you can move another 6 inches closer to the next enemy model. So if you wanted to, you can even use it as an opportunity to pile in, and while you wouldn't be able to fight, your unit will be attacked, you can tie up a gun line. You can roll them into artillery lines, or you can roll them into the Devastators or the other types of units that don't want to be in close combat, but they need to go and fight. But you can use this to, tie them up and hold them down. Ramming speed is pretty much the same as before. 2 command points, 3d6 on the charge roll for a vehicle, and if they land the charge, pick a enemy unit within engagement range, roll d6 on a 2-up to suffer d3 mortal wounds. I happen to love using this with my my Megatrack scrap jets, because they already do mortal wounds on the charge. They do on a 4-up, and they still have that, which is nice. So you have a chance of doing 2d3 or d3 plus d6. I don't remember how much, but basically a whole bunch of free mortal wounds as you slam into somebody. It's also nice if you have a Bone Breaker wagon, which is the one that likes to get into close combat. Its built-in ability for the getting additional attacks on the charge has turned into a custom job, but again, we'll get into that later. So either way, it's nice to get those vehicles that you need to get into close combat to slam into them, and those extra mortal wounds are nice. I've noticed they've definitely given orcs a lot more mortal wound output, which was one of my personal comments with my team, my colleagues, about how one of the sufferings of the Orc Codex in 8th edition is that they only had access to 2 or 3 sources of mortal wounds. It was very limited. So, Gun Crazy Show-Offs. This selects a Flash Kits unit that can shoot again, but can only target the closest eligible unit. I don't use Flash Kits, so I don't own them. That's fine. Hit 'em harder. This was another one I was very excited about because this one's for Mega Knobs in the fight phase. And as you know, well, you may not know, but I love my Mega Knobs. I have 5 of them with dual kill saw. And yeah, they're pretty much the big fist of my list. I have a bunch of other things that are threats, but it's the Mega Knobs that always get the job done when they appear on the table. And now, until the end of the phase, each time it fights with an attack with a Power Claw or Kill Saw, add 1 to the attack's damage characteristic. And that, to me, is mucho bueno. You can use that if you're going after the big beasties and such. Like, my 5-man unit with this stratagem can possibly take down like a Lord of Skulls in 1 shot. Possibly. Obviously, dice and otherwise, but the amount of damage output they have now is enormous with that added in. So I like this one. Again, probably will become a staple, like one of my go-tos. When I start shuffling this deck and pulling out the ones I use more, this one will probably be on top along with a couple, that other one I mentioned earlier. Tough as a squig hide. So this basically picks any of the Beast Snaga units, so infantry, cavalry, or monster. I'm assuming that means characters as well that are infantry or, because character infantry and such. Until the end of the phase, basically unmodified wound rolls of 1 to 3 failed, irrespective of any abilities for that weapon or the model that attack may have. So basically, you're only being wounded on a 4-up. That can be nice as a defensive counter for when your opponent's big punchy thing comes through and you need something to stay on the table. You can say, no, well, I mean, a 4-up to wound is not the worst, not amazing, but it's the difference between a 4-up and a 2-up. I mean, you're cutting the, success results nearly in half. So it's a nice thing. I mean, again, I'm probably not going to be getting a lot of Beast Snaga stuff other than what's in the box. So we'll see how that goes, if I remember it or not. Breaking Heads. This is instead of it now being a built-in ability of the characters, it's now a stratagem. So the war boss or a knobs unit can select another unit that was going to suffer, or when they failed a morale test, and you can cause D3 mortal wounds, and the test is treating as having been passed. And that sucks. It sucks that it's 2 command points and that it's no longer a built-in ability from the characters, because that was something that really helped out later in the game. And also, we'll get into it later, but the orcs mob rule has been changed, so orcs are going to be suffering from leadership a lot more now, and they took away the one thing that kept them from having to worry about losing too much. So, big bummer, very disappointing. Evil Sons. Okay, finally. So I wonder if they're doing it by the stratagem categories. I'm guessing that's what they did, but either way, Evil Sons have Drive-By Daka. At the end of the shooting phase, you select one of your Speed Freaks units, and they get to make a normal move as if it was your movement phase, but they can't charge. So, that's kind of nice if you are shooting something and your shooting failed and you're about to get counter charge. You can use this to, haul ASS out of there. Or if you need to get them onto an objective and you just didn't have quite enough movement, this would be a great way to just have them, just get that last few inches to get over onto the objective or anywhere. So, a little bit of movement versatility, and that's what Evil Sons are all about. I mean, just being fast and going faster as it should be. Death Skull's Wrecka. So, this one is kind of similar to what it was before, a little bit. Actually, no, it's technically a bit worse. It's core character from the Death Skulls. Any attacks they make against a vehicle, they get to add 1 to the attack wound roll, which is all right. I mean, re-rolling wounds was actually kind of nice too, but they're trying to step away from re-rolling stuff. They're just speeding it up, so it's just +1s now, so meh. But at least you can use it in shooting or fight phase, so you can actually technically use it twice in the same turn if you need to take something down. I mean, especially if I was to run my Death Skull Mega Knobs and use the punch with the Wrecka, the hit 'em harder and Wreckas together. I mean, that'd be 4 command points, but wounding on +1 and doing extra damage to the vehicle, they could definitely eat their way through a lot of things. Blood Axes, dead sneaky. At the end of your movement phase, if the mission you're playing in is using the Strategic Reserves rule, that sucks, because if there are some missions that don't, which means your Blood Axes are useless on those missions, because they have almost all their stuff about Blood Axes is messing with Strategic Reserves. And this one basically lets you pick 1 infantry unit, excluding mega armor units, that's within 3 inches of any battlefield edge, and place that unit in Strategic Reserve. So you basically take them off the table, and then the next turn you get to put them back on the table. And I don't own things like commandos or not the shock, the jump boys, the boys with the jump packs. I just blanked on their name, but I feel like those would get some good benefit, so you can kind of redeploy around the battlefield. But it's definitely not one I look at. Freebooters get the loot. Select a freebooters infantry unit from your army in the battlefield, and until the end of your next command phase, they gain the OBSEC ability. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's all right. I mean, if you're running some elite stuff that you can take and like dump out and then take control of an objective, you can do that, as you're planning on it. Because you have to do it during a command phase, which is the beginning of your turn. So if you're gearing up, you kind of have to be mindful of your plan to get it. So, also, again, you'd have to have the unit. They can't be riding in a vehicle because how they do the rules where you can't target units in vehicles with stratagems. So I think Storm Boys. It's Storm Boys. That's what I was remembering earlier. I think Storm Boys might be the best benefit from that, because then you can, deep strike them across or not deep strike, or advance them. They move really fast, and then grab the objective for the turn and then get gunned down. So Tide of Muscle. And this is when you select a core unit, excluding Gretchens, from your army to charge. That unit can ignore any or all modifiers to the charge roll. And it can ignore any or all. So that means you basically can ignore any negative modifiers. So your opponent's got minuses, or like the psyker powers and stuff, and ways to penalize it. You can say, nah, I need them to get where I need them to get. So then you can roll up better strength. That's nice. Unstoppable Momentum for the knob on Smash the Squig, which is in that box, which I'm very excited about. When it finishes a charge move, you use it at the end in your charge phase after that unit finishes the charge move. If there are no enemy models within engagement range of that model, it can immediately be selected to declare a charge again. Now, this one takes a moment. I kind of like this one, but here's how this works. When the Smash the Squig charges, he causes mortal wounds. So you charge into something, you mortal wound, and you kill it. Like last model of unit, a weakened character. And now he gets to charge again into the thing that he wants to get. So you literally go pum pow, pum pow, and he gets to do mortal wounds against that thing again. Now, it doesn't let you do it multiple times. It's just one more. And I guess after finishes, yeah, the way I read it, it's a one-time use. It's not like every time he finishes the charge move. But basically, it allows you to bounce further, slam into things harder, get where you might want to go if you happen to kill models that put you in an engagement range. So, it's situational, but if you can pull it off, it's pretty awesome. I think it would be more to throw your opponent off. They'll be like, what? How did he get from this side of the table all the way over there? Because of Unstoppable Momentum. Grot Shields. Ooh, I like the reading on this one. I actually missed this one before. Select one infantry unit from your army, then select one Gretchen infantry unit from your army that's within 6 inches of that unit. Until the end of the phase, enemy models cannot select the selected Orcs infantry unit as a target if the selected Gretchen infantry unit is a closer visible target. Wow. You have to do it at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. That is a whole lot better than what it was before. Because before it was just a pass off and you would do mortal wounds. This one's just a flat out no thank you. No. And that's a big deal. I think you can protect things way better, like especially my Ludas, who always get heavily targeted early in the game. I can just say, yeah, you're not going after my Ludas this turn. I need them to shoot. At least for one turn. So, I mean, again, 2 command points. God, they have so many 2 command point stratagems. They're just... it's going to be so hard to do everything because you're not going to have enough points to get everything done. So, teleport as strategic ploying. Okay, cool. They did have this. I was looking in the book and I didn't see it in the main section. I probably just missed it. But this is, you select one non-monster orcs unit from your army with a power rating of 20 or less, and they get to deep strike. And if you select a transport unit, any models embarked upon it, it's set up on the battlefield. And it does have a cap of 20 or less. I'll have to look at my def dreads and see if that still works. But, 2 command points. I was paying that premium anyways. Actually, was I paying 2? I think it was only 1 before for what I had. So that kind of sucks. But I could still technically do my deep strike def dreads if I still want to run them.
I'll get into that more when I get into the book. So, Lumbering Strides. You pick a Morka Gorkanaut or a Stampa in the charge phase, and when you use the Irigo ability to reroll a charge roll. We'll get into it in the book, but basically Irigo's changed from rerolling one or both to being just rerolling the whole charge. And this says you can reroll one of the dice for that charge roll instead of both. So this gives you back the old Irigo for either a Morkanaut, Gorkanaut, or a Stampa. So, it's kind of nice. If you roll a 7 and you need like an 8, and you roll a 6 and a 1, then you can reroll just the 1. One command point, it's okay. It's limited also to the character. So I'm never going to use it because I don't own any of those models, but it's kind of nice. Burn them all. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when a burn a bomber unit from your army makes attacks with Scorch'em missile racks. After resolving these attacks, each other unit within 3 inches of the target suffer 1 mortal wound. I actually own a burn a bomber, believe it or not, and I might consider using that. I don't really bring that unit out just because, it's. I wanted a Dakajet, and I put the wrong parts on it, and so it ended up becoming a burn a bomber. But I also don't want to buy another airplane to just have a Dakajet. So, plus I have one of my favorite paint jobs on it too. But that's cool. I might have to remember that. Monster Hunters. There's a ton of cards left. Monster Hunters. Use the stratagem at the start of any phase. Select one enemy monster or vehicle unit and up to 3 beast snagger units from your army. And each time an attack is made by one of the beast snagger models towards that monster or vehicle, add 1 to that attack's wound roll. Like that for gun lines. So if you're running a gun line with some beast snagger units, if they have a good gun line, I'm not really sure what beast snaggers have an availability for shooting, but you can just sit there and shoot down that one vehicle. Otherwise, you can pig pile on top of it. Again, since it's beast snaggers, it's not like I can do my mega knobs or like my Ludas or anything, because beast snaggers are their own whole batch of new guys and such. So it would have to be from the nuke selection. So I probably won't end up using it. And the snake bites. This is a snake bite stratagem. During your opponent's psychic phase, and you select 1 snake bites unit from your army, and they can attempt to deny 1 psychic power as if it were a psyker. I usually, I go up against so many Eldar and so many other armies that have tons of psychic. I just don't see that being worth it, even if I were to play snake bites, which they're pushing for heavily with all the new beast snagger stuff, because that's all basically snake bite stuff. Not intentionally, but how they synergize works really well. So, but the thing is, it's a unit, it's not a character, so that means, if you get somebody close, you can use them to help block stuff, but Orcs is never beaten. This is the same as before, where the an Orc's character gets destroyed in the fight phase. Oh, that has not already been selected to fight this phase is destroyed. That's a huge change. Before it was just when a character was destroyed, you get to fight with them again. But instead, they get to do a free fight, and if they have a characteristics profile change, you have to use the bottom row. So definitely much worse than what it used to be. You could, before you fight with your war boss, then he gets stomped, and then you can fight again, or with Orcs is never beaten, and possibly take down your target. Not that that ever worked for me, but that's kind of boring. The big of it is, this is when a Beast Snag war boss is selected to fight. If they target a Titanic unit, add 2 to the damage characteristic of that attack. That's great. Extra gubbins, this is generic, so you can have another relic. Big boss, this lets you have a character have a warlord trait and be treated as a warlord. I thought this was new, but I hadn't played it. I didn't know that, but apparently all the new 9th edition codexes have this similar thing where you can give a bonus warlord trait to another character. There's a lot of new good warlord traits, and I think that would be definitely a good one I'll keep in the back of my mind when I'm making lists. And Cutting Flames. I was kind of excited, like, hey, my Burna Boys, because I like my Burna Boys. They're not, again, powerful, but they're something I like. You can pick them. When you select them to fight in the... you use the stratagem in the fight phase, select 1 Burna Boys unit from your army until the end of the phase. Each time it makes a melee attack, it has AP 2, -2. And this can't be improved by any abilities or rates that improve AP characteristics. So I think they're currently AP 1, so it gives you another AP on it. I was like, that's okay. I mean, it's kind of nice. I have had actually some unusually good luck throwing burner boys at like regular Space Marines and them cutting them down pretty fast with the negatives. So that can help if I need to take a unit down, just to soften them up a little more. But again, for one command point, I don't know. Mordaka. We use this when an orc unit from your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, Daka weapons that unit is equipped with are considered to be within half range when determining how many attacks are made with that weapon. That'll make sense later. Basically, Daka, if you're in half range, you have a larger amount of shots than at full range. So basically, you get to do more shots. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. 2 command points again. Good lord. Cloud of Smoke. Select one Speed Freak vehicle from your army until the end of the phase, while Speed Freak vehicles within 6 inches of the selected unit. Each time a ranged attack targets that unit, subtract 1 from that attack hit roll. So, -1 to hit against it because the Speed Freaks are peeling out and making a bunch of dust and smoke. So, that's the same as before. Tank Buster Bomb. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when an Orc Tank Buster Bombs unit from your army is selected to fight. I think they updated the Tank Buster profile. I'll have to look at that when we get into the book later. Select one model in that unit. That model may only make 1 attack this phase and must target an enemy vehicle unit with that attack. But if a hit is scored, that unit suffers 2d3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. So, it's a good way to push through some mortal wounds onto a vehicle, especially some of those ones that have damage reduction or their own little like invuln saves and such. I'm thinking of all those Eldar vehicles, so situational but nice. You don't really want your tank busters in close combat though, so that's kind of the thing. Snag a Grapple. Use the stratagem at the start of your opponent's movement phase. Select 1 beast snag a boys from your army. Each time an enemy unit except Titanic is within engagement range of that unit, select the move. Roll 1d6 on a 4-up. The enemy unit cannot fall back this turn. So that's kind of nice. And that's just for the boys. So basically, you can pile in, trap in a guy, and you have to use it during your opponent's movement phase. So like, if your opponent, especially this is more of a meta one. If you're talking with your opponent and they're saying, "Yeah, I think I need to get those guys out of there," you can be like, "Nope." So we'll see if that comes up. I will be running my Beast Naga boys because they're new and they're kind of fun and that they look fun. So. Anyways, Ground Shaker Shells. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when selecting a target for a heavy loba. Until the end of the phase, each time that model makes a ranged attack, if a hit is scored against a target that is not Titanic and it cannot fly, until the start of your next movement phase, have the move characteristic of models in that target unit and subtract 2 from the results of advance and charge rolls made for that unit. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. It's a war gear stratagem, so, like I said, I don't really know if the codes mean anything. I have to look that up. I haven't been paying attention because it wasn't in the 8th edition Codex now. So, but that's a good way of slowing down an enemy unit. It's a hit is scored. It doesn't say if it's been damaged or anything. You just have to score a hit. So you can use that to target something that you do not need moving across the table, like your opponent's big heavy unit. I'm picturing I have a buddy who plays a big pack of Thunderwolf cavalry. And I would totally nail them with that. And their movement goes from a 12 down to a 6. And then they have a -2 to their advance rolls. So, it would slow him down greatly. So I'm going to put that one in the back pocket. Force Field Booster. Select during the start of your opponent's shooting phase, select one model in your army that has a custom force field. It replaces the abilities with the following. Aura, while a friendly Orc unit is within 9 inches of the bearer, it has a 5-up invuln. Now, again, preview. I guess I realize now I probably should have done the book first. But basically, the custom force field, which I always ran like 2 or 3 of in my lists, they are now, instead of it being a 5-up invuln save versus shooting wholly within 9 inches, it's just a tag, but it's 6-up invuln, but it's against everything, shooting or melee. And I haven't checked. I think that still works for the vehicle if they're riding in a vehicle. But a 6-up versus a 5-up. It's not like I ever made my 5-up invulns anyways. But it's definitely a lot worse now. The 6-up's kind of nice. But the key thing here, it's no longer wholly within. It's just within. So that allows you to have a little more flexibility with your orcs. So that's very helpful. So the only problem though with this stratagem is at the end of the turn, the custom force field overloads and cannot be used for the rest of the battle. You can only use the stratagem once per battle. So it's one turn where you absolutely need to keep something on table. It blows up, and then your mech with custom force field becomes utterly useless. It becomes basically a single boy with a few more wounds, and overall a lot worse. So just, yeah, I'll probably never use that, but that's just silly. Core command reroll. Core cut them down. Core desperate breakout. Core emergency dismarcation. Core fire counter offensive. It's ain't bravery. We're done. Yep, I didn't go over those because those are the ones that everyone has. So, yep, just the psyker powers and stratagems. But that was a lot more stratagems than I had realized. Like, I was skimming through the book, but maybe I was flipping past pages out of excitement. But yeah, so there's that. We are rolling right along. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to switch gears and get into the bread and butter of this video, the book. So give me a moment while we're going to go ahead and pause the camera while I rearrange my setup so I can actually look at the book without having to sit there like that. So we'll be right back. All right, folks. So now we're moving on into the actual book itself. First of all, it's very soft, very nice, got some pretty awesome art. We have the great new quote, "Live off the land, got to find war, kill what comes close, the old ways is best." It was funny because when I was reading that to my buddies at the shop, I read it all poetically, and then it just ended in like, that doesn't rhyme. So it bothered them. So let's start off with, I'm just going to be frank with you guys. I'm going to throw my phone right there. So clearly the setup is not working. So, okay, sorry about that, folks. I hit my camera. This book's a lot bigger than the General's Handbook, which I practiced on before. So contents in here, we've got 35 pages of fluff, which I'm going to ignore because I don't really care about that part. It's just stuff they make the book bigger so that they can charge more money for it. Showcase of like 12 pages, again, trying to up the prices on everything. And then we get into the Battle Forged rules with the detachment abilities. We also have specialist mobs, custom jobs, and stratagems, which are 3 pages. And then we get into the actual army rules. And then you actually start getting into the data sheets down here. So I'm going to skip the first half of this. That's just not something I care about. You guys are probably going to know, you know enough about orcs, probably, if you're watching this. If you don't, there's probably 2.5 billion different videos talking about orc lore and such. So I'm sure you could probably find those as well. But I really want to focus more on the rules and my opinions on the rules for the game, because I got into this hobby to play the game. So, says the guy who's never read a book, because now there's literally hundreds of books out there, and I'm like, I don't want to do it. So we're going to go ahead and open up to page 51, starting at the Battle Forged rules. So, wow, look at that pretty little wog smashing up some good old Ultramarines, as they should. So, lots of stompas, lots of smoke, lots of wah. All right. Detachment abilities. So, specialist lads. Let's see. So, start off, they have the clan keyword, works for orcs, but not for Gretchen units. And troop units and orc detachments gain the obsec ability, usual. Specialist lads, they can only... So, specialist lads, essentially how that works, I'm just going to bring it in, is that these 6 characters, or 5 or 6 characters, I guess 5 characters plus specialist mob units, they will belong to a specific clan. And so when they're in your lists, if your list is the same clan, then they get bonuses. Otherwise, they don't get the bonuses of the clan, but they don't penalize everyone else in the clan. So say you're running Wrecka, who is Goths, and you're running him in a Death Skulls list. He's Goths, he does not get the Death Skulls bonuses, and he doesn't get his own bonuses either, but the list is not defunct. Like, the rest of the army can still use its, or the rest of the detachment gets to use their Death Skulls stuff, so... And then they also have, I'm the boss. I'm probably just going to end up having to hold it. It's too big. I'm the boss, which you can only take 1 war boss, a Death Killer, war trike in each detachment of your army. That's okay. I mean, I didn't really run double war boss ever, but I know some people did. They would run a couple of those guys,
and give them some benefits and use them as a couple of sledgehammers. So this limits the number of war bosses you get on the table. But war bosses got better. We'll get to that later. And then named characters and kill rigs, they get mandatory warlord traits. I believe these guys have to be warlords when they come on the table, or if they aren't the forced warlord, then this is what they have to take. You know, that's fine. I mean, now I have Zodgrod Wartsnaga because that's in the this box. But I might end up just running him. A lot of people are saying just run him as a weird boy or a whir boy because his actual rules are kind of mediocre. But we'll get to that. Orc Clans. So this runs essentially similar to how it's always been. If you're running a particular clan, you get access to their Warlord Traits, Stratagems, and Relics in addition to the generic ones in the book. So Goff's the no mucking about we talked about earlier in the video. On a modified hit roll 6, you score additional hits, and each time this culture makes a melee attack, if the unit made a charge move or performed a heroic intervention this turn, you get to add 1 to the strength characteristic of that attack. So that's really nice. On the charge, you can really put out a lot of damage, especially now that boys are strength 5 now. That goes up to strength 6. That's a big deal if you like to run Goffs. Warlord Trait, Prop Achille. Add 1 to the Warlord's attacks. And when they make a melee attack, they get +1 to the armor penetration. So, you know, Prop Achille. Relic, the Iron Gob. After making close combat attacks with the bearer before they consolidate, you can select one enemy unit within 1 inch of the bearer, roll d6 on a 2. The unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So that's kind of nice for getting a little more damage output. So I'm going to move my camera out while somebody with his big car comes popping in the background, if you heard that. All right, Bad Moons. I think this one definitely got a little bit better in my opinion. They're all pretty good, but add 6 inches to the range of characteristic of DACA and heavy weapons this model is equipped with. Each time a model with a culture makes a range attack on an unmodified rule 6, you get +1 AP. That's kind of nice because DACA, as I mentioned earlier, you get to do glare. Maybe I'll move the camera again. They get to do on half range, they get to do more attacks based on their profile, and so add 6 inches basically adds 3 inches to the more profile, more damage range. So it's kind of nice. Warlord Trait, the best armor Teeth can buy, 4-up invuln and +1 armor saving throws. That's amazing. That really is amazing in its own right because invulns are so nice and everyone has them except for orcs, except for like one opportunity. So their relic, the Gobshot Thunderbuss. This is heavy 2d6, strength 5, -1 for 1. However, since it's heavy and it's got a 12-inch range, but since it's a Bad Moons model, they actually get +6 to their inches, so it's actually 18-inch range. And if you roll unmodified rune of 6, you get to do an AP -2, and it's auto hits. So it's basically the Gobshot Thunderbuss is a super large flamethrower. I mean, really, it's actually just a giant, pellet shotgun, but that's still it's kind of nice, especially if you want to get a lot more shooty output. So Evil Sons, red ones go faster. So +1 to move to speed, +1 to move characteristics of all the models. Speed freaks get +2. Add 1 to advance rolls, and cultures, no penalty for firing assault weapons in the same turn when they advanced, which is nice. Except almost all the assault units or assault weapons became DACA weapons for like the infantry side. I didn't really look much at the vehicle side, but I know a lot of them ended up becoming DACA, and they don't count towards the assault handling. Warlord Trait, faster than use. In your command phase, select one friendly Evil Sun's core unit within 6 inches of this model. The unit can declare a charge even when they've advanced or fell back this turn. And that's actually, I think, really nice because say your opponent charges into you and they hurt your big blob of boys, you can have them fall back, charge in, and then get to do the charge bonus and basically get 2 free rounds of attack on them before they get to fight back, fight in the previous turn and then charge there. Relic, Res Mecha's Redder Paint. Can only be taken by a vehicle model. Add 2 to the movement characteristic. And at this start of the fight phase, if this warlord is within engagement range of enemy units, those units cannot be selected to fight until all eligible units from your army have done so. Well, first off, I already see kind of what a possible discrepancy because it says a warlord. So it's like, can you take this on a non-warlord vehicle? And would it still work? I mean, I'm guessing the way I'm reading it as it is until they FAQ it, in a few weeks or whenever they do that, is that
the vehicle will get the +2 to move no matter what, and if it's the warlord, then you get the second part of it. So basically for the Def Kill at War Trike. So kind of a bummer, but at least it's not like in some books where you're required to take that relic if you're running like Evil Sons. So like I know they do that in some of the Age of Sigmar stuff. So it's just an option there. And if you do own a Def Kill at War Trike, which I do not, but if you do, maybe that could be pretty handy. You can throw it in with a like a double charge with some war bikes or some other heavy hitty stuff, and then you can have all your stuff pile out and kill what you need to kill before it can even fight back. So, all right, snake bites. So, something that's kind of weird that they literally gave Goths, like I think 3 of the bigger clans, Goths, Bad Moons, and Evil Sons, only half pages, and then they give snake bites like a whole page, along with Death Skulls and Freebooters. So, anyways, snake bites cultures. Each time it attacks me with that unit, each time an attack is made against a unit with this culture, unless that attack has a strength characteristic of 8 or more, they can't be wounded on anything better than a 4+. So, that's alright. And each time a Squig model with this culture makes a melee attack, if that model made a charge move or performed heroic intervention, add 1 to the wound roll. So, yeah, again, I mean, see how I was saying that all the new Squig stuff, they're going to give a lot of boosts for running snake bites, and that's part of it. Warlord Traits early as a Squigoth, and the first time this Warlord is destroyed, you can choose to roll a 1d6 at the end of the phase instead of any rules are triggered when a model is destroyed, like the Orcs has never beaten stratagem. If you do so on a 4-up, then set this Warlord back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where they were destroyed, and not within engagement range of any units, with D3 wounds of remaining. So, they get to stand back up. If you're lucky and you have your Warlord next to a pain boy, you can try to heal them back. Although I didn't see the stratagem that lets you do D3 wounds back or healing, so I don't know if that's still there. Brog's Buzz Bomb for the Relic. Grenade 3d6, 5-1 for 1. Blast Weapon, and it can only target units that are not visible to the bearer, or they can target units that are not visible to the bearer. And can only shoot once per battle. And each time the attacks with this weapon, the attack score hits on a 2+, irrespective of any modifiers. And after shooting with this weapon, each unit within 6 inches of the target suffers 1 mortal wound. Note that it says each unit, not each enemy unit. So if you throw it at, it's the 6 inches range. So I mean, you're going to give yourself a mortal wound back. So, well, that's kind of dumb. I mean, 3d6. I mean, it's a good way to clearing up a lot of softer targets. Again, good anti-horde. But again, in my opinion, orcs already have so much good anti-horde. So really, I don't know. Death Skulls, Lucky Blue gets the ones that. There we go. Let's see if that reads better. Each time a unit with this culture is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 wound roll, or 1 hit roll, or 1 wound roll. 1 wound. I can't say that. 1 wound roll. Thank you. With resolving that unit's attacks. Obviously they took away the damage roll, and it's 1 hit or 1 wound, so it's not like. That's definitely considerably less worse. You don't get to do a ton of extra wound and hit and wound and hit and wound and hit and wound over and over and over. So each time this model would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound on a 5-up, the wound is not lost. So feel no pain for mortal wounds. So that could be a thing. But and infantry units gain obsec, which they had from before. So technically they still have their 3 rules, which I was kind of shocked they kept all 3, but they essentially crippled the 2 that made them auto includes. So Warlord Trait Opportunist. Each time you select a target for this Warlord, if you select a character within 12 inches, you can ignore the Lookout Sir rule, which is pretty nice. And each time an enemy vehicle unit is destroyed within 6 inches of this Warlord, you gain 1 command point. And I guarantee you, I will forget that. I will forget that. If I ran that Warlord Trait, I would probably be like just destroying stuff and moving on. But I think that ignoring Lookout Sir, that's kind of cool. I think, maybe if I was running, the Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun as your Warlord and trying to use it to target, but they have to be within 12 inches, so you still have to get close, so, very situational. I don't know if you can build around it. Relic, the Fixer Uppers. This one's been changed a little bit. Each time the bearer uses their Mechaniac or Big Mechaniac ability, roll 1d6.
On a 2+, the selected vehicle unit regains 1 additional wound, and you can select 1 enemy vehicle unit within 12 inches of the bearer. The enemy vehicle unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Now, notice it's within inches of the bearer, not the target. So you can, essentially the way I describe it to my buddies is they heal up their vehicle, and then they use some sort of magnets or something and rip chunks off of enemy vehicles to repair their vehicle even better. So it's a little better. I mean, the D3 Mortal Wound add-on is actually kind of nice. I may have to play around with that, especially because I do like to run my Big Mech and Mega Armor. But I often don't end up using the Mechaniac ability, because what I usually do with my Big Mechs is put them in the vehicle, and then when the vehicle is destroyed, then they hop out. So the vehicle's already gone. You can't really repair a vehicle that's, dead. But I don't know. That's a thing. I could see that being a little better, especially with the chance of doing mortal wounds to opponents and healing your own. So that's kind of nice. All right, blood axes. So this one, each time a ranged attack is made against this unit with this culture, attacks more than 18 inches away, then the unit with this culture is treated as having the benefits of light cover against that attack. I believe light cover is the one that gives my either +1 to save rolls. I always get them backwards, because one of them does +1 to save rolls, and the other one does -1 to hit, between the light cover and the heavy cover. So, and units with this culture are eligible to shoot or declare a charge with, but not both, in a turn in which they fell back. So, some more of those shenanigans type stuff. Warlord Trait, I've got a plan, lads. At the end of the deploy forces step, select up to 3 Blood Axes units from your army and redeploy them. If the mission uses strategic reserves rules, any of those units can be placed into strategic reserves without having to spend any additional command points, regardless of how many units are already in strategic reserves. If both players have abilities that redeploy units, roll off. The winner chooses who redeploy their units first. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, if you're really into the tactical outer play stuff and, being able to deep strike your stuff's pretty cool. But if your opponent also sees that 4 or 5 units of your army are in deep strike or in strategic reserves, you bet your bunions that they're going to screen you out, and you're not going to even get to use those guys in a good fashion, unless you get lucky and you shoot down some of their backfield stuff and then get your way in, or you're facing against a more elite army that has less table coverage, like knights or custodies or something like that. Then it could be kind of handy. But against another horde army, or one that has a lot of little drops where they can kind of pepper them around the field, you're actually gonna end up shooting yourself in the foot more. So, Relic, Morgog's Thinking Cap. This relic may be taken by a vehicle model at the start of your command phase. With bearers on the battlefield, roll D6 on a 4-up, you gain 1 command point. So how I was saying earlier about that issue with all the command abilities being really expensive? This would help. You get the opportunity of gaining more command points. I usually ignore those abilities, but I just read this right now and was literally in the back of my head thinking, you just said how much you wish you had more command points, and well, guess what? Now you can get more command points. So yeah, it'd be pretty good. I think if I was to run Blood Axes, which I probably won't, I'd probably take the Relic and then pass on the Warlord Trait, but Alright, Freebooters Competitive Streak. Now this one I think actually got a good boost to its stinking glare. Let's see. There we go. Alright, Competitive Streak. Each time a Freebooters unit from your army destroys an enemy unit after that unit's attacks have been resolved until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made by another Freebooters unit with this culture from your army, add 1 to the attack's hit rolls. Now note the big difference here from last time. It's any phase, not just shooting phase. Before, it was during the shooting phase that you would get the bonus. But now in the fight phase, if maybe you've had some luck, you've peppered down your opponent's units, and then you made a whole bunch of charges, got 3 or 4 charges in, and then you kill off one thing, and then you get to kill more and kill. I mean, you could easily steamroll past your opponent if you get some good luck with the competitive streak. Now, again, you have to destroy a full enemy unit to trigger it, so I definitely don't see that working early in the game, but later in the game, when everything's starting to go down, there's less models on the table and such, you could possibly take good advantage of that. And since it's not limited to the shooting phase, you get to use it basically double the opportunity of getting their trigger, which is, I think that's pretty cool, actually. So, I don't own any of the flash kits, which are kind of what freebooters are all about.
But you don't have to have units dedicated to the army to run them. It's like I run Evil Sons, but I have very few speed freaks. Stuff like that. You can run Goths without having to have 100 boys. So yeah, it's you think outside the box. There's ways to play with that. So. Anyways, Warlord Trait, Killer, Reputation. While an enemy unit is within 3 inches of this model, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of the models in that unit, and each time a combat attrition test is taken for that unit, subtract 1 from that test. Oof. So you have a way of definitely crippling and making your opponents lose more stuff. While a friendly freebooters unit is within 6 inches of this model, within, not wholly within, just tagging, add 1 to the leadership characteristics of models in that unit. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's leadership stuff, so hopefully that can help out a little bit with the issues I was mentioning earlier. And the Bad Skull Bana model, only this relic may be taken by a vehicle model. While an enemy unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, it loses the obsec ability. Oh, that's handy. I think that could actually be pretty... that could be situationally handy. I mean... most likely if you're fighting for an objective, you may have advantage already with bodies and such, but this can be handy to bring in things like, say you have a battle wagon full of flash kits. You can dump the flash kits out and they're not OBSEC, but your opponent won't be OBSEC either. But relics have to be taken on a character, by my understanding, and so, you'd have to actually have a character that's, it's heavily situational again. Alright, now we're going on to the Specialist Mobs. So, Specialist Mobs, how they work, you pick 1 unit from per detachment. So, if you're running multiple detachments, you get to have multiple mobs. You get to pick 1 unit. It loses its clan type and it gains the Specialist Mob keyword. And it gains the abilities listed under that specialism. That's the thing that's to be warned about is that if you pick this, then they lose their access to their abilities, like Goths, the no mucking about, Blood Moons, the plus 6 inch range, like all those abilities are lost by that 1 unit, but they gain the unit's personal abilities. So Pyromaniacs, for any unit basically that has Burnas, each time a Pyromaniacs model shoots with a Burna type weapon, when rolling the number of attacks for that weapon, dice results of less than 3 count as 3 attacks instead. That's nice, because I don't know how many times I've rolled to get 1 attack for the whole unit, and then you end up doing nothing with your burner boys. That's kind of nice. Boom boys, for basically any characters that have weapons that have the blast keyword, and each time a boom boys model shoots with a weapon with the blast ability, add 1 to AP. That's all right. A lot of the blast weapons that are here already run or AP 2 or AP 1 and such. So I don't know. I don't know if I use that one. Flyboys, for flyers. Each time a ranged attack targets a Flyboys unit, if the attacker is more than 6 inches away, then the core unit with this ability is treated as having the benefits of light cover against that attack. See the core rulebook. So basically makes your Flyboys a little bit safer, a little bit sturdier. Big Krumpas, Def Dreads, Gork and Mokonot, Mega Knobs, Mega Armor, Knobs, Mega Armor character units. The selected unit gains a Big Krampus keyword. Each time it makes a melee attack, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. Oh, I noticed the Def Dreads and the Morkanot, Gorkanot, but the Mega Armor Knobs getting +1 to hit too would help offset their -1 that they get for having the power the kill clause. So, Nathan may have found new stratagems. Mad Boys. So biker cavalry character or mob units only. They gain the keyword. Basically, at the start of each battle round, you roll D3 and they get 1 of these random bonuses. Rash, where they can pile in 6 inches instead of 3. Inspired, you can reroll 1 hit roll or 1 wound roll. So it gives it the Death Skulls keyword. Or Frenzied, they get to add 1 to strength of melee attacks. So, this is kind of, I think it's designed more for it's a mob units, so I'm assuming that's like the boys and the beast Snagga boys and stuff. That's situational again, but it could be kind of handy. If nothing else, it'd be just good amusement. Sneaky Gits, Boys, Commandos, Knob, or War Boss. And each time they make a melee attack, if the target's receiving the benefits of cover, give it +1 AP. Situational, not very good. I don't like stuff that just deals with benefits of cover. It's just, I mean, I guess maybe it's just the tables that we play on at the shop and such, but there's just not a lot of opportunity for that to actually matter, and it's so hard to track without having set it up beforehand. So, Truck Boys, Boys Knob or War Boss. Truck Boys unit can disembark from a truck, even though the truck has made a normal move this phase. While any Truck Boys are embarked upon a truck, each time it makes a ranged attack, add 1 to the hit rolls. I love that. It gave us back our 7th edition special ability of being able to slingshot units. So you can only pick one unit, and then like the Truck Boys, you can only, they can only fit 10 to 12 in a truck. But imagine, if you will, or even a knob unit. So like you can, technically the Mega Knobs count as a knob unit. So you move your truck 12 inches, and it made a normal move, so you can't advance, but moves 12 inches. They get out, well, they're 3 inches, and then move their normal, get out within 3 inches of the vehicles. I trade as +3. Move there another 5 inches, so they got 8 inches. And from there, then they can charge. That's giving your boys essentially a 32-inch threat range for charging. And with the size of the tables these days, that is literally the entire length of the playable table. So if you need to get after something first turn right away, that is right up in their grills. So I like that. I think between that Truck Boys and the Big Krumpas, those are the two that I'm probably the most excited about. So Horrible Gits, Gretchen Core unit only. And guess what this does? They gain OBSEC finally, because for some stupid reason they took away OBSEC from Gretchen. Because, let's just take one of the units in the army that needs most help and make them worse. So they gain OBSEC, but when any other unit is within 3 inches of them, each time a model in that unit makes a range attack, subtract 1 from the attack's hit rolls. So you got to keep your stuff away from them because they're horrible little gits. However, I did read that when other units, so not friendly, not enemy, it's any units. So that way, if your opponent runs up to them and tries to shoot at them, they're being an horrible git and giving them subtracting 1 to their hit rolls. Or if your opponent gets close to them, you can scrabble up your horrible gits to get them close to them, and then they have -1 hits because they're being obnoxious little gits. So, that's very situational. Like the fact that you can only take 1 per detachment really limits you actually wanting to use some of these, because like Mad Boys might be fun, horrible gits might be just silly, but it's like then you give up the opportunity to use something like Big Krumpas or Truck Boys or something that's, in my opinion, feels like it's got much more oomph. And so it's like, that's great. I see 2, 4, 6, 8 different mobs. It's 6 of them that will probably never see the table unless you build an absolutely specific list for them. So, all right, now we're on to custom jobs. So same idea as before. The custom jobs you actually have to pay points for, but you can give them to a single vehicle unit, and they gain the bonus of that. And specialist mobs cannot have custom jobs. So, and neither can named characters have custom jobs. So this sucks a little bit, because one of the things they did was before with the custom jobs from the whatever that Saga of the Beast book was from, Psychic Awakening, you could take a unit, say like 3 Shock Jump Traxtas, and you can give them that one of the custom jobs. I didn't actually get that book because I wasn't going to pay for a campaign book, because I know those are situational, limited time, and I don't need more books in my life. So, but you could give it to a whole unit, and then all the guys would get the buff and move on. Now they've specifically said 1 model units only, and that 1 model can get the 1 custom job, and you can only have 1 custom job per detachment. So they really crippled the ability to use custom jobs now. So, something I think people were taking advantage of just enough to make Games Workshop say, screw you guys, because heaven forbid you have a chance against Space Marines or Death Guard. So, anyways, yep, so there's vehicle custom jobs, mech custom jobs. Let's look at those really quick. Dabuma.
Wagon model with kill cannon only. It has this profile: 2d6, strength 8, -2 for 2 damage with blast. So I think it's more attacks. We haven't looked at the other profile yet. I don't really use a kill cannon, so skipping. Fortress on wheels. Truck or wagon gains a 5-up invuln. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. I mean, I like tanking up my wagon a bit. And it's, not like with the old custom force field where it's a 5-up versus shooting only. That's just a flat-up 5 invuln. So when I charge my battle wagon into enemy units, they can actually go toe-to-toe. Which was funny, during the tournament, my battle wagon with Def Rolla actually went toe-to-toe with a Lord Discordant from Chaos Space Marines, and I was very impressed that it actually did as much damage as it did versus the big character. So, got Gyroscopic Whirligig. Shock Jump Dragstub model only. Mortal wounds suffered by the result of its shock tunnel ability are ignored. The shock tunnels, when you advance them, they can move across the table, and then you'd have to roll a 4-up to take D3 mortal wounds against them as a result. And that just lets you have free reign to jump them without worried about them blowing up. So, more DACA. Any vehicle, anytime this model shoots, roll a d6 on a 4-up. Make 1 additional attack with each DACA weapon this model is equipped with. On a 6, make 2 additional attacks with each DACA weapon this model is equipped with instead. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, so like the DACA weapons are anywhere from like the Shudas to some of the rockets. So they have different profiles all across for the DACA weapons. So I could see that being very helpful if you're running like maybe the gun wagon or maybe some of the other vehicles that have a lot of attacks. So, but it's on a 4-up, so it's not like it's a guaranteed bonus attacks. So, situational again. Nitro Squigs for the Squig buggies. Each time an attack is made with a heavy Squig launcher or Squig launcher, add 1 to wound rolls. I don't know those, so we'll move on. Red Rolla. Bonebreaker model. That's one of the variants of the battle wagon. Replace this model's Bonebreaker Ram ability with the following. Red Rolla. Just send that right over. Each time this unit fights, if it makes a charge move this turn, until that fight is resolved, add D3 plus 3 to the attacks characteristic of this model. So I think the Bonebreaker Ram just adds D3. So this makes it D3 plus 3. So for the potential of an additional 6 attacks. And if you've never gone up against a Def Rolla before, it's like hitting onto Strength 8 and like D3 damage or something like that a piece. We'd have to look and see what it is now. But you can do a ton of damage with that. So to add another possible 6 attacks, that's scary. Like, I might actually have to consider running a Bonebreaker now. Anyway, if I consider use that. So. Shackle. Each time an enemy unit selects this model as a target of any attacks in the fight phase, after the attacks have been resolved on a D6, on 4-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Again, good against armies that you need to put mortal wounds out on, like Death Guard and maybe some of the heavier, tankier Space Marines. So, situational, but alright. Souped Up Special for the Boom DACA Snaz Wagon. Change this mech special to DACA 16/12. So, that's a lot of shots. That's 16 dice from one model. That's pretty cool. I don't own any of those, so we'll move on. Squig Hide Tires. Vehicle model, excluding walkers and aircraft. +1 to move and +2 to the advance characteristic. Good lord, combine that with with the Evil Sons with their +1s and +1s and a Speed Freaks. You're adding basically a +6 to that model's advance rolls. Okay, the boards are smaller, and let's give them the ability to go do like 15 laps around the board, 1 movement phase. Stomp-O-Matic Pistons. Def Dread Gorkamot Morkanaut. +3 to move, +1 to advance. That's nice. I think they're currently like 6 movements, so that makes those suckers fast. Again, you can only have it for 1, which is sad because I finally got a second Def Dread, and I've been really happy running the Def Dread mob. So it's like I can't take advantage of these unless I break them up or I only run 1. So kind of sad, but Bionic Oiler. That sounds appropriate. Model equipped with a Grot Oiler. Grot Oiler can be used twice per battle instead of once. Whatever. I would not waste a full custom job to have access to a Grot Oiler twice. Complete waste of a custom job. It's a shame that you can't take one vehicle and 1 mech, but well. Enhanced Runt Sucker.
That also sounds appropriate. Shock attack gun changes their weapon type to heavy 2d3. So I think it's heavy 1d6. So that essentially pushes your variable of better shots up by a bit. So I definitely would probably take that if I don't take anything else and I'm taking a shock attack gun. It just makes them just slightly better, so that's nice. Extra custom weapon. Maul equipped with a custom Mega Slugga, custom Mega Blasta, add 1 attack. That's cool. I think that'd be actually pretty helpful for my big mech with Mega Armor because they're usually 1 shots, now it's 2. That's good. Smoky Gubbins. And here, I gotta set this down because hands cramping from holding the book in this one particular way. Smoky Gubbins for a unit with a spanner model. That's the Ludas and Burnas, which, by the way, they forced them now. Before it was optional to have spanners in the units. Now it's mandatory. For every 5 Burnas or Ludas you have to have 1 spanner, which is complete crap because you're losing a lot of attacks for subpar units. So they have these 2 stratagems instead, or custom jobs instead. So if this unit remains stationary, it's treated as having the benefits of light cover. So +1 to save. Crap. Zap Krumpas, however, this is one I like a little bit more. A unit with a spanner model. Each time a melee attack is made by a model with this unit, unmodified wound rolls of 6 inflict 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. So I would probably put that with my Burna Boys if I ran those, but you can't run Pyromaniacs and Zap Krumpas. However, I don't really like the Pyromaniacs one as much because it's, although the Pyromaniacs is the D3 plus 3, it's not the I'm thinking of the Stratagem, which gives it -2. So, so like between the two, if I was to bring Burna Boys, like, do I want to get more basic attacks in with the Flamers, or do I want to try and cause more having the opportunity for mortal wounds in melee? Well, the thing is, if your Burna Boys are in melee, you're probably already in danger. So I don't see that being useful. And the other unit that can have spanners is the Ludas. And if your Ludas are in melee, you're already in trouble. So, like, I'd maybe say Smoky Gubbins maybe for the Ludas. Otherwise, Zap Krumpas maybe for the Burnas. But, yeah. Like, honestly, of these 5 mech jobs, the only one I think that would be worth taking would be the enhanced runt sucker, because that's just hilarious to say anyways. But it makes your shock attack gun just slightly better. And then of the vehicle custom jobs, I mean, there's a couple here that are kind of nice. The Fortress on wheels, the Squig high tires, or even the Stomp-O-Matic pistons. I mean, it looks like they took away the one that made your shooting get better, which really sucks because I know, like, that was a big thing about people running Def Dreads with the quad custom Mega Blasters, and now that they used to get boofed with a custom job, and that, I think that custom job's not even here anymore, so it's just really disappointing. So, alright, Stratagems. We're not doing that because I literally just did that on the cards. Warlord Traits. So, there's basically 6 generic ones, 3 Beast Snaga specific, and 3 Speed Freak specific ones, so that's kind of nice. Alright, let's do this, and you know how Warlord Traits work. Alright, let's see if I can get some better light on here again. Alright, so follow me, lads, aura. Basically, the Warlord gives +1 to charge rolls for friendly units. And let's see, each time a friendly Orc unit declares a charge against an enemy unit that is within engagement range of this Warlord, add 1 to the charge roll for that unit. That sucks more. Before it was, I think it was a slightly better ability. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But basically the idea is you charge a war boss in, and then you tell everyone else, follow me, lads, and then they all charge them, and they get +1 to the charge roll, which is really, I mean, I guess it's nice enough that, because the last thing you need is to have your war boss charge into, like, Imperial Knights, and then have nothing else make the charge, and your war boss gets slaughtered. So at least you have more bodies to get more attacks, but Big Cobb, add 3 inches to the range of this Warlord's aura abilities to a maximum of 9. Always a throwaway, in my opinion. A throwaway Warlord trait. Alright, as nails, each time an attack is made against this Warlord, subtract 1 from the attack's wound roll. Which, that's, again, I would say maybe that'd be kind of handy for the Def Killer War Trek, but I think there's better Warlord traits out there. Brutal but Cunning, they changed this one up for the worse, unfortunately, but Each time this warlord fights, if all of its attacks target one enemy unit, after resolving all of those attacks, it can make a number of additional attacks against an enemy unit equal to the number of attacks that did not reach the inflict damage step of that attack sequence during that fight. So what that means, just for those, because that's a lot of words, basically saying, oh, I dropped the phone. We're good. We can edit that out later. All right, so, well, yeah, okay. Okay, so basically what that means, you attack with your 4 shots from your war boss. You roll in the hits on 2s, and you roll 3 1s. And that sucks. Then you roll your 1 wound, you do your damage. Now, you get to roll 3 dice rolls because you missed your 3 hits. Or, if you miss any wound rolls, you get to roll those again as another hit and wound sequence. So essentially what it does is it lets you get kind of a reset on missing some of your attacks one time. So that way it increases your ability to be more effective with your fighting. But I don't find that being much better than the whole re-roll to hit rolls on a successful charge in a heroic intervention, etc., etc. I guess it's kind of handy. It can be used, like, especially in the later game. Like, if you're fighting a unit over and over and you're kind of trading blows, it's more usable long run rather than the one charge slam, do a whole bunch of damage and move on. So, I don't know. I mean, it's still got kind of a place, so we'll see. Cunning but brutal. At the start of the fight phase, if this warlord is within engagement range of enemy units, it can fight first that phase. I like that, especially if you fail your charge and your opponent charges you, you still get to fight first and possibly wipe out enemy units. So, I like it. Minus right, +1 strength and attacks, which is better than what it was before. Before it was just +1 strength, which was completely useless. This is also, I still think, like, okay, but there's better stuff out there, so, you know. If you absolutely can't think of anything else being more handy for your character, then good on you. Alright. Snag a Warlord Traits. Big killer boss. Each time the Warlord fights, if it's within the engagement range of vehicles or monsters, add 2 to the attack characteristic. So you get 2 extra attacks against vehicles or monsters. And it's only within range. So say if your beast boss has facing off with a vehicle and a pack of infantry, you still get your +2 attacks. You can send it after anything and such. But if it makes a melee attack against a vehicle or monster, add 1 to the attack wound roll. So it's basically wanting to hunt down enemy vehicles or monsters. So it's kind of nice, but you know, especially because nowadays you can only cap +1 to wound and hit rolls and stuff, and -1 wound and hit rolls. They have so many things that give +1 to wound rolls. It's like redundant, you know. But. Beast Gob and Aura. When a friendly Squig unit is within 6 inches of this warlord, they get, whenever they attack with their Squig attacks, add 1 to the attack's damage characteristic. I do notice they don't have big Champa's jobs on here, so it's just the little guys. So the Squig Hog, the Smash the Squig, and the Squigosaurus. So I guess the Squigosaurus is not really a little guy. Basically, it's everything but the named character Squig. So yeah, add 1 to the damage characteristic. That's kind of nice. I mean, you know, it's a thing. Again, if you're running a Squig herd, then that would be great. And Half Chewed, while this warlord is within engagement range of an enemy character or monster unit, each time that model would lose a wound on a D6, on a 4-up, that wound is not lost. So 4-up, feel no pain in melee with a character or monster. Heavily situational, but if you're in that situation, you would be very happy to have it. Speed Freaks. Roadkiller. After this warlord makes a charge move, you can do a D6 to do a D3 mortal wounds, so just slam into people. So more mortal wound output on the charge, which, again, if you combine that with the ramming speed and the Mega Track Scrapjets and all the other things, you can get a lot of mortal wounds on the charge. So Get Up in Their Faces is eligible to shoot in a turn which they fell back. And Junk Boss, Warlord has a 4-up invuln. So slightly worse than the Bad Moons thing, because the Bad Moons also gives +1 to save. But if you're running Speed Freaks, you're probably not running Bad Moons. You're probably running Evil Suns. So, you know, that's all right. It's all right. You know, that's what happens when you monk the legs around with your little holder thingy. Okay. Next page, the psychic powers. We already did those, so I'm going to skip those. Here are the generic relics. So, these ones. Super Cyborg Art Body. I think I really love this one. It's 4-up invuln save, and each time an attack is allocated to this model, have the damage characteristic of that attack. That's awesome. Now, it's only for infantry, but, I mean, like, just think about putting that on one of your other characters, and your war boss essentially has almost double the hit points against the big scary stuff. The stuff that's going to do 3 or 4 damage at a time to your boss, and you're cutting that in half, and it's just wonderful. I like that. I like taking the Super Cyborg for the 5-up invuln in the old book, but now the invuln's better, and it gives half damage, so I that one may start becoming an auto-include. Head Wappa's Kill Choppa, plus 2 or times 2 strength, minus 3 AP for 2 damage, and modified 6s on wound rolls, inflict a mortal wound. Yeah, that's cool. I know a lot of people like the old Head Wappas. It's still alright. The Crushing Armor. Mega Armor model only. 4-up invuln, plus 1 to saving throws, and after the charge gets to do 2+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Yeah, the charge wounds. I think they just need to have some sort of catch term for it. So, ram wounds. We'll just, I don't know. The Killer Claw, the old staple. And this one replaces the Power Claw and has the following profile. Times 2 strength, minus 4 AP, flat 3 damage. However, it's nice because, the Power Claw still has the minus 1 hit, and this doesn't, so you're still hitting on 2s with your war bosses and stuff. So, I mean, it's nice. You no longer have the reroll to wound rolls on that, which is sad, but they take away a lot of wound roll stuff. Plus, everything has plus 1 to wound rolls now. The Dead Shiny Shooter. 18 inches, DACA 14/10, strength 5 minus 1 for 2 damage. Compared to the Gobshot Thunderbuss, which was the Bad Moons one, like, obviously this is DACA, so you want to maybe take this with the Bad Moons one, which is, gives it another 6-inch range, so that's 24 inches for that. I mean, it would be nice, but the Gobshot Thunderbuss is also auto hits and more attacks. So, I don't know. I mean, probably won't end up taking that one ever, but it says. And Scorched Git Bone Psyker model. Each time the bearer attempts to manifest a Witchfire psychic power, add 1 to the psychic test. Each time he would suffer the results of Perils of the Warp, D6 on a 4-up. That wound is not lost. So a 4-up invuln versus Perils of the 4-up Feel No Pain versus Perils of the Warp, and plus 1 for only Witchfire psychic powers. Not all psychic powers, just the Witchfire, which the codes, the Witchfire basically are like the damage outputs. Your Smite, probably Edbanger, stuff like that, but doesn't give you plus 1 for like the jump or things like that. So, worse, not taking. Beast Hide Mantle for a Beast Naga model, plus 1 attack characteristics, and a 5-up Feel No Pain. So, it's alright. It's alright. Alright, now, the chapter approved rules. These are the objectives. I'll just go like that. I'm getting tired holding it up. So there's 4 of them. Everyone got some unique ones. So for the progressive objectives, Stomp 'em Good, you can score 3 victory points at the end of each battle round if the number of enemy units destroyed by melee attacks made by Orc units from your army is more than the number of friendly non-Gretchen units that were destroyed by melee attacks during this battle round. Score 1 additional victory point at the end of the battle round for the number of enemy units destroyed by melee attacks made by this, if at least 2 and double than more than the number of friendly non-Gretchen, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you can get 3 points for destroying more enemy units in melee than they do for you, and gain 4 points if you do at least 2 and double or more. So, you charge in, you kill 2 units, they don't kill anything back, or only 1 thing back, you get 4 points. Now, at first I read that, I thought that was really stupid. It was, why would they, if enemy destroys more stuff than yours, I never like taking those ones because orcs have such soft, squishy things that they're easy to lose a lot of units. But then I noticed the key word here. Melee. So, when I play my melee army, when I get into melee, I don't lose my units in melee. I lose them to shooting. So that's actually a much better stratagem than I had an objective than I had realized. It may end up being one that I would take regularly because
second turn, you don't start scoring objectives until second turn anyways, I will be in close combat by second turn in most of my games, and I will probably be destroying stuff in close combat. So, all I have to do is destroy one enemy unit a turn. I can still get 3 points. So, 3 points is a big deal, especially because I often have throwaway stratagem or objectives, and I never. There's a lot of them I don't like, especially with the new chapter approved ones, and I look at them and I'm like, none of these would work for my army or for what I have. I have no idea what to use. I think Stomp 'em Good may replace that. Shadow operations, get the good bits. If you select this secondary objective, and then after both sides have finished deploying, starting with your opponent, the players alternate selecting objective markers that are not within any player's deployment zone to be good bits objective markers until 3 objective markers have been selected. If there's only one such objective marker, then only that objective marker is a good bits objective marker. Core units gain the following action. At the end of your movement phase, one or more core units can start to perform this action. Each unit from your army that starts to perform this action must be in range of a different good bits objective marker. A unit cannot start this action when there are any, enemy units within the range of the same marker. The action is completed at the end of your next command phase, provided that unit attempting the action is still within range of the good bits objective marker. Score 3 victory points for each time a unit from your army completes the get the good bits action. So, here's how we're reading it. First of all, you and your opponent pick up to 3 in the neutral zone. If there's only one, then there's only one. And if there's only one on the table, you don't want to take this, because then you only have one, and your opponent obviously knows take control of that and keep your guys off of it. But if you have like some of them where they can have 3 or 4 of them on the table, you can get your if you can get your core units to sit on them and stay on them and not lose control of them for your whole turn and your opponent's next turn, you can get 3 victory points for each. But most likely your opponent's going to pick ones that are going to be close to his side of the table, so you're getting crossover there. So he's going to dedicate everything he's got to killing those guys, so you may not got the points there. However, that can be a tactic in its own right, because if your opponent's dedicating all of his shooting and all of his killing to try and wipe out a unit of boys, then he's not targeting other things in your army with his shooting or with his, attention. So there's possible distraction bits with this. I don't know if I would take that one though, because you're putting your luck into hoping that your opponent either doesn't target your core unit or is incapable of taking down an entire core unit with shooting, which I have seen a pack of 30 boys get wiped off the table with dedicated shooting, even with a custom force field support. So, I don't know. For the Purge the Enemy section, the biggest and the best. If you select this secondary objective, you score 3 of the following 3 victory points at the end of each battle round for each of the following things achieved by your Warlord for a maximum of 5 victory points. An enemy monster or vehicle is destroyed as a result of a melee attack by this Warlord. An enemy character is destroyed as a result of the melee attack by this Warlord. 5 or more enemy models were destroyed as a result of attacks made by this Warlord. So, you can get up to 5 points per turn. Now note that the 5 or more destroyed are the results of any attacks, not melee attacks. So say you're running a war boss with, I like to run mine with the custom Scorcha. And so your Scorch, kill off 5 guys in a nearby unit, you can score 3 points. You charge into a character, you kill that character, you can then score 5 victory points because it caps off at 5. So pretty much you have to do 2 of the 3 of the actions each turn to get the most out of this. But I could see something there. I might try it out for a couple of games to be fair and see if it actually is impactful or not. If it's not, then I won't use it anymore. So, Battlefield Supremacy, Green Tide. This is divide the battlefield into 4 even quarters. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round. If 2 or more battlefield quarters have an Orcs unit from your army that contains 11 or more models wholly within them. Score 5 victory points at the end of the battle round. Instead, if all 4 quarters have it with at least 11 or more models wholly within them. Now, I'm reading this. So an Orc unit that has at least 11 or more models wholly within that section. So if I have a 30 pack of boys and I spread them out between 2 sections, technically the Orc unit will have 11 or more models, 15 models in one quarter and 15 in the other. So you could possibly pull that off. But otherwise,
you are relying on boys. This would be a good stratagem if you're running Goths and a ton of boys. I don't do that because I don't like taking 3 hours to play a game by moving models. So that would be a good stratagem for Goths, or objective. I keep calling them stratagems, but they're objectives. I would definitely take that if I was running the 3-pack of 30, because you can easily get all those bodies across the table. If you notice, however, in the stratagem section, the unstoppable green tide is gone. You can no longer bring back units that are heavily damaged to full strength, which makes me mucho sado. Crusade rules. I don't do crusades, so we're just going to move on. I kind of appreciate, there's a different border, so when you're flipping, you can see what the crusade section, okay, it's got this greenish yellow background. Okay, I know that's the crusade section. That's a crusade army. We'll just do some Gillicans, Death Dread, Storm Boys, some boys, trucks, other things. Squig Hogs up in front because they're the feature army. Good old war boss over there. Data sheets, clan keyword, as we know before. Usual how everyone, when you have your clan, your chapter, your this, your that, DACA weapons. DACA weapons have 2 values for the number of attacks they make. When a model shoots a DACA weapon, use the first value if it's within half range, otherwise use the second value. And as you saw with some of those relics, they had the 2 values. So like the Gobshot Thunderbuss with a 18-inch range or 12-inch range, if you're 6 inches away, it's DACA 16. If you're between 7 and 12 inches away, it's DACA 12. So that's all that is. Now, I'm just going to throw this out here right now. They are no longer assault weapons or heavy weapons. So the way I'm reading that is you can move and shoot DACA weapons without penalty, but you cannot advance and shoot DACA weapons. Because assault weapons, you can advance and then shoot assault weapons with a -1. And then heavy weapons, you can move, not advance, but you can just move and they take a -1. But since these aren't either, you can move them forward and still shoot the full, without penalty. So it's not as good as assault weapon, but it's not as bad as a heavy. But it's also not as good as a rapid fire, because rapid fire is just a flat double the number of attacks. So a lot of these profiles, as we might look at later on, they are actually not a full double. There's a couple that there are, but like the DACA 16/DACA 12. But if it was rapid fire 12, then it'd be 24 and 12. A lot of them are like DACA 3/2 instead of being able to be rapid fire 2 and getting 4 shots. So they also do, however, make that distinction because, as you saw, there's a lot of abilities and such that impact DACA weapons in particular. So they in of themselves, while I call them kind of basically worse range or rapid fire, they can get bolstered in other ways that makes them comparable or maybe even better than rapid fire weapons than just the raw stats. Abilities, here we go. Changed. It's now you can reroll charge rolls made for units with this ability. Now, it doesn't say failed like before, or it didn't say that before either, so you can still roll it. So, if your charge is, you're 1 inch away and you roll 2, you can re-roll that to try and get it better so you can get more pile-in stuff, so that's nice. But it's no longer re-roll 1 or both. So, if you roll a 7 and a 6 and 1 and you need an 8, you can't just re-roll the 1. You have to re-roll both. And it is technically worse, but at least you don't have to. At least it's not, re-roll failed charge rolls, so, Ramshackle, they changed this one too. Ramshackle was just for trucks, and it was on a 6. You roll 6, and any weapon that damages them, the damage profile goes to being a 1. But now it's just each time if it's targeted by a weapon that has a strength characteristic of 8 or more, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of the attack to a minimum of 1. So, you know what? That's actually not as bad. For some reason, I was reading that something else. I think I was reading it like the snake bites ability where it's strength 8 or better, it doesn't wound better on a 4 up or anything. But no, this is subtract 1 from strength characteristic of 8 or more from any attacks. So, that can be helpful. I mean, obviously it doesn't protect against, lots of little fire, but that's not the point. Ramshackle is to protect you from the rockets, the missiles, the las cannons, the power claws, stuff like that. Because it's not just shooting, it's anything. So if your opponent's using a weapon that's giving him strength 10, then he's doing 1 less damage as a result. So, mob rule. While this unit is within 6 inches of friendly clan mob units that are not under half strength, this unit is never considered to be under half strength. That means nothing to me. I don't know what that means. But what it does mean to me is that they no longer have where the leadership's based on the number of models in the nearest unit. And that's really sad, because now I have to pay attention to leadership. And I'm not sure if the half strength is referring to leadership stuff. I'll have to look that up. If you guys happen to know, you can just comment below, and that'd be great. So that sucks. But maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't suck, because I don't actually know what the half strength is referring to. But I'll look that up later. Beast Snag up. So everything that's a Beast Snag gets this special rule here. Each time they attack a vehicle or monster, they get +1 to hit rolls, and they have a 6-up invuln save. So, Beast Snagas, everyone knows it. They're basically Primaris orcs. They're going to do things to make the new models better than what was before. So they now have a flat up 6-up invuln and +1 to hit against vehicles or monsters. And unfortunately, you can't give like tank bustas or ludas or anything the Beast Snag word. It's just the new kits. So we'll see. We'll see if that's beneficial in the months to come on. So Wah, they're bringing back Calling the Wah. For 8th edition, the Wah was a built-in ability for warlords that let you essentially get to advance and charge in the same turn if you were within 6 inches of your war boss. In 7th edition, before, you used to have to yell Wah and you'd get a bonus for the turn. This game, you actually get a bonus for 2 turns now. So there's a Wah and there's a speed Wah, and then Wrecka can call a great Wah, which is both in one. And so Wah, which is called by regular war bosses, and Speed Wah is called by Speed Boss, which is the Def Killer War Trike. And so regular Wah is on the first turn when you trigger it, which I believe you have to trigger these during the command phase. Yeah, you have to trigger them at the beginning of the command phase. So first turn, it's core and characters can charge even if they advanced, and they get +1 to attacks, which is really nice. But and then in the second turn, you keep the +1 to attacks. So what that basically does is the Wahs basically linger for an extra turn, and so you get more oomph out of it. But can you imagine calling the Wah on the turn that matters, probably the second turn? Everybody gets in close combat, gets gnarly, beats everybody up, and that lasts until your next command phase. And then the second turn, you keep fighting, and you do your attack characteristic and your charge in. Now imagine the one of the either the Warlord Traits or such that lets you have friendly units fall back and then charge on the turn, so you can have them fall back, charge in, get the charge bonus for attacks, so blah blah blah. So either way, that's kind of nice. Then obviously it burns off, and you can only use it once per battle. So, but the speed, the Great Race. Orc models from your army do not suffer the penalty incurred for firing assault weapons in the same turn they advanced. And each time a vehicle or biker model from your army shoots with a DACA weapon, make +1 attack with that weapon. See, DACA gets bonus, not rapid fire, so that's where it gets better. And then each time they make a unit makes a range attack, improve the AP by 1. And then the second round, give them some DACA, improve the AP by 1. So you don't get as many shots. But this is kind of fun. For the speed wall is nice because you can advance across the table. You can basically rearrange where you need to be, shoot everything as much as you need to, and then the second round, if there's still anything left, you can just shoot and pummel them right well again. So it's kind of nice. It's fun because you get to yell "Wah!" again. So we'll get to do that. Oh, profile time. So we've got. So what I'm going to do for the profiles, I'm not going to look at every single one of them. I'm just going to look at the ones that I care about for my army, because I have only maybe a half or so of these. So I don't own Gazkul. I don't own Makari. I do own Big Mechs with custom force fields. So they have, basic profile for a character. The custom force field is a friendly unit within 6 inches, has an invuln save. The range of this aura ability can never be increased unless specifically stated otherwise. So, so basically, that if you had your Big Mech get that beast or that loud gob stratagem or whatever, it's not going to work very well. So, it won't work that way. And then they have the big Pyromaniac at the end of your movement phase. You can repair one friendly clan vehicle within 3 inches, and they regain up to D3 lost wounds, and it can only be repaired once per turn. But if you give them that to fix the uppas, then they can heal them, +1, and then do so D3 +1 lost wounds, and do D3 mortal wounds to an enemy unit nearby. Big Mick with shock attack gun. So heavy D6, so it could be heavy 2D3 if you do the custom job. Strength is as before, where you do 2d6 to determine the strength of all the attacks, and 11 plus. Each successful hit deals D3 mortal wounds in addition, so that's back again. They have the same big mechaniac because they're big mechs, so so pretty much what we anticipated. So that's cool. All right, we have War Boss. Yes, everybody takes a War Boss because good profiles. 5 attacks now instead of 4, which is nice. I'm fairly certain they were 4. I'd have to look for sure. You can have a combi weapon. It's like you get your little attack squig, which is nice because I remember that guy. And then the power claw. Now if you notice, power claws before were -3 in D3 damage. Now they're only 2. They swapped to the power claws and the kill saws. So kill saws are now ×2 -4 for D3 damage. So the kill saws are now arguably better than the power claws in all respects, but they're harder to get access to. So it's kind of an interesting trade-off rather than having it be power claws do more damage or the kill saws that do more AP. So I'm excited about that though, because all my mega knobs are dual kill saws, so now they're doing D3 on all theirs, and with that hit them harder with the D3 +1. Yeah, I'm happy. And of course the -1 for hit rolls. So if you trade that out for the Killer Claw, then it's ×2 -4 for 3 damage without the -1. So you're hitting on 2s, strength 12, -4 AP, 3 damage apiece, 5 attacks, good times. And swap out the combi weapon, swap out the big chop if you want, add the squig. Dead tough. Yes, 5-up invuln built into the War Boss now. Halla frickin' Luya. That was the most frustrating thing about 8th edition, with the fact that your War Boss, you had to take things to try and keep them alive, and now you don't have to waste artifacts for that. Plus, you have all those artifacts that are 4-up invuln and +1 to save, and they have a built-in... Oh, they have a 4-up save now, so then they can have a 3-up save, 4-up invuln with those other buffs. But still, a 4-up, 5-up is... It's decent. And War Boss gives friendly core and character units within 6 inches +1 to their hit rolls. So, and technically gives it to himself, but he's already at 2-up, so basically he can... Oh yeah, that's right, because it's friendly core or character units, so he technically gives it to himself, because it does say character, and he's a character, so he's also within 6 inches of himself, so that's kind of nice, because it can negate a -1 to hit against him just by a little bit, which actually, well, what do you know? -1 to hit rolls, so he blocks the -1 for the power claw. I just thought about that, so you don't even have to take the killer claw anymore, because it doesn't give the reroll to wound, and yeah, you get the +1 damage, but yeah, I think there's probably better relics you can give him. So anyways, War Boss and Mega Armor, yes, that model's not out yet as of this recording, but you can give him the Huge Choppa. He's equipped with the Big Shooter and the Huge Choppa. And Big Shoot is DACA 5-3, Strength 5, 0 AP 1, which we'll be seeing in all the other big shooters. And then regular shooters are DACA 3/2. So, Huge Choppa is +3 Strength and -3 AP for 2 damage. So, Strength 9 at -3 for 2 damage, which is considered technically worse than the Power Claw, but doesn't give the -1. He still has the +1 ability. He has a 5-up invuln. He also has a Grot Gunner. This model makes an attack with a Big Shooter or a relic that replaces this model's Big Shooter. Add 1 to the hit rolls. So basically forced to hit with that. Here we go. Wow. And they are 5 inches, though. That's a big thing for the Mega Armor. That's kind of nice. So we've got that. It doesn't have anything. You can't change out the Huge Choppa. So that's really disappointing. You can't give him the Killer Claw, because the Killer Claw has to replace a Power Claw. I mean, I guess you can give him Edwappa's Kill Choppa, because that can replace Choppas, but I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about it. I mean, he's got 7 wounds. The other War Boss has 6 wounds, so he's +1 wound, a 2-up save with a 5-up invuln. I don't know. We'll see. Weird Boy. All right, while there are 20 or more Orc models within 12 inches, instead of a bonus, it's this model can attempt to manifest 1 additional psychic power in your psychic phase. That's kind of cool. And this model can attempt to manifest one psychic power in its second phase and attempt to deny one, and it knows Smite and 2 psychic powers from the power of the Wa. So that's better than the having them explode on themselves for having rolled too high. And you have access to 2 spells, and you can cast an additional spell if you're nearby enemy models, so or friendly models. That's kind of cool, because then you can take the jump and Warpath and send your pack of boys off without having to use a command point to make them a bigger weird boy like they used to have to in the 8th edition book. So that's nice. That's nice. Big Mech and Mega Armor. Okay, I saw the Big Mech and Custom Force Field, and they had the same picture. I was like, did they not give the Mech and Mega Armor its own profile? Well, ladies and gentlemen, yes, they did. Okay, so it starts with the Custom Mega Blaster and Power Claw. You can do any of the combi weapons. Custom Mega Blaster. Oh, it's D3 now instead of 1. That's a big deal. And then there was the other stratagem thing, the custom job that can make the Mega Blasters do +1. That's nice. So, Teleport Blaster is 12 inches. Assault D6, 8 - 2, 3 for blast. It no longer does if it wounds the thing, it sends them off into space. But that's actually arguably better. In fact, that's a lot better than a custom force field, which is only a 6-up invuln. I actually might start using my Teleport Blaster again. That's kind of cool. And then it has access to the Kill Saws, which lets you do each time, it fights -1 to hit roll. And if you have 2 Kill Saws, you get +1 attack. And he has 3 attacks, so you could get 4 attacks with dual Kill Saw if you want. The upgrades, you can do 1 Kill Saw, 1 Combi Rocket, 1 Combi Scorcho, 1 Custom Shooter. He already starts with the Power Claw. And you can also give him either Teleport Blaster or the Custom Force Field. So the Kill Saw rule, they put that in because that's always in their rules for everyone that has Kill Saws. But you can only give them 1 Kill Saw. However, the Kill Saw and the Power Claw combination would be kind of silly. And then you can give them the Teleport Blasters to still have them have some shooting. But that's just silly. I don't know. Yeah, and it doesn't say, it just says 2 Kill Saws. It doesn't say Kill Saw and Power Claw. Because we could combine the Kill Saw and Power Claw and still get the +1 attack. That'd be kind of cheeky. And they have the big Pyromaniacs rule, so. Definitely better. I think it's better, actually. I like the Teleport Blaster as it is, because before it only do 1 damage, and it wasn't super impactful, and it was like still a 12-inch range. So 12 inches kind of sucks, but it's all right. I think it's all right. So we have Boss Snickrot, and Boss Zagstruck, the leaders of the Commandos and Storm Boys, respectively. I don't own any of those units, so I will skip those. Def Killer Warlord Trait, I do not own. Captain Badruck, I do not own. Zodgrot Worth Snaga, I know I will own now. And decent profile, 4 attacks. He's got a Slugga, he's got the Grab Zappa. He does +2 strength, -3 damage for 2 damage, or -3 AP for 2 damage. Squig Stoppa. At the start of the fight phase, you can select 1 enemy monster unit within 6 inches of this model on D6. 2-up, that model is not eligible to fight until all other eligible units from your army have done so. So, nice little crippling buff, or a debuff, really. So, super runs. At the start of the first battle round, select 1 Gretchen Core unit to be Zograd's super runs. They get +1 to their hit rolls, and they can shoot while performing an action without that action failing. Well, +1 to hit rolls, so they'd be actually hitting on 3s because they're ballistic skill 4, and they have their super pistol Sluggas, strength 4, 0 AP for 1 damage. And they're 12-inch range, so you know what? If they're able to actually shoot something while they're on an objective, then there's something that's too close to them that's going to kill them. But they can do it without the action failing. So, really situational. Like I mentioned earlier, Zodgrod Wartsnaga may end up just being a stand-in weird boy or were boy. So, that's just how it goes. It's fine. As long as my opponent's clear with that. And the thing is, look at him. He looks pretty weird. I mean, obviously he's a tribute to an old model that they brought back, but I didn't start playing in the old era. I started playing Orcs right at the beginning of 7th edition, so I don't have any like nostalgia tied to it. So then we have the Beast Boss on Squigosaur, and the Pain Boss. None of those models are out yet. I don't own any of them anyways, but they're all the Beast Boss variation and characters. Boy, that's the Beast Snaga Psyker. And then there's the named Mazrog Scragbad with Big Champa, the Great White Squig. So now you move on to the basic core. Gretchen are not obsec, which is really stupid, but that's okay. Cowardly. Unless a friendly clan run hard within 6 inches of the unit, each time they make a combat attrition test, subtract 1 from the result, with a great leadership of 4. That's awesome. Diminutive. Each time a ranged attack is allocated to a model in this unit while it's receiving the benefits of cover, add an additional 1 to any armor saving throw made against that attack. They got a 7-up save, which means they don't even have a saving throw now. So you basically want to hide them in cover, and if they have light cover, it gives them +1 save. They get another +1 save, so they go up to a 5-up save. Woo! Yeah. Way to take a unit that was already mediocre and make them worse. All right, here come the good old bread and butter. Your boys, 10 to 30 of them. Big shooters with 5/3. Rocket is a heavy D3 with blast as opposed to heavy 1, so that's kind of nice. I still don't like to run rockets with the boys because they don't need to be losing their attacks that way. I like to run the big shooters with my regular shooters, but that's just because of volume of attacks, really, at that point. Shooters are 18-inch DACA 3/2, which is kind of cool because the shooters can reach, the big shooters can reach within half range probably, and so you're getting, 5 attacks from the 3 big shooters as opposed to 3, so that's kind of nice. And then the Choppa, which is now -1 AP, 1 damage and an additional attack, so that's kind of nice. So you can actually kind of eat your way through Space Marines and stuff, because nothing more frustrating than to throw 30 boys at 5 Space Marines and they're 3-up absorbing everything. It's funny, it's just one number, but a 3-up to a 4-up is a huge trade-off. Like, it really is. And then, like, the Shuda, if you have bad moons, all those Shuda attacks, if you're rolling 6s to wound, they're causing -1 AP as well, so you can just pepper, just lots more peppering and such. And then all the trade-out stuff, the usual. That hasn't changed much. Irigo, Mob Rule, and Wah, so, that's nice. That's a cool story. Fun stuff. Now, the Beast Snagga boys, they are pretty much similar profile as well. They have the Sluggas. They have the Thump Gun, which is Assault D3, Strength 6, -1 D3. So basically a slightly worse rockets, but it's still kind of nice. You can run basically 1 per 10 in the unit. Have you noticed you can only have up to 20, so you can have 2 Thump Guns. In my box that have my models there, I will be building both Thump Guns because they're new. And if I don't end up actually using them as Thump Guns, I don't think anyone's going to care. I just have to let them know that they are being used or they're not being used. So, Choppa, and then you have the Power Snapper, which is Strength +2, so Strength 7 -2 for 2 damage. So, not too bad. Not too bad at all. And then they have the Beast Snagger rule, so they get +1 to hit against vehicle or monsters, and they also gain a 6-up invuln stat. So basic troop that has the free invuln, that's not given by the Death Skulls. That's that's all right. Knob with Wall Banner. Good old classic with a custom shooter. The Wall Banner giving plus strength, so strength 7, 0 AP for 2 damage, so that's nice. And you get your, +1 to hit rolls for friendly clan orc units within 6 inches. Again, within, not wholly within, so you can just have them tagging. I used to like to run the Wall Banner with my Mega Knobs, but I'm actually thinking I may not have to do that anymore, especially because the War Boss gives that +1 to hit now as well. So, he may have a place somewhere, but not in my lists. Pain Boy, I own this. I never use them, but I want to check one important thing. So we've got the Power Claw, which does the usual. The Urti Syringe. It's only strength 2, 0 AP damage, but it makes 1 additional attack with weapon, and unless the target is a vehicle or Titanic, it always wounds on a 2+. So the strength doesn't care. Basically, they put the strength there so that if you're targeting a vehicle, you're wounding on 6s, and otherwise you're wounding on 2s. But, 1 damage for an extra pip. Again, don't expect the Pain Boy to carry the line. If he's in close combat, you're already in trouble. And then Grot Orally, you can redo the Sawbones ability. So,
Here's a nice thing. That stratagem that was before for the Pain Boys is now a built-in rule. And at the end of your movement phase, you can heal one friendly clan infantry or biker model whose unit is within 3 inches of it. If you do so, roll a d6. On a 1, that unit suffers a mortal wound, so you could kill your own characters. On a 2-up, that model regains up to 2 lost wounds. Each model can only be healed once per turn. But I could do that for my Mega Knobs, because they're infantry. So I can actually trade out the Pain Boy for the Knob, and he can actually heal the Mega Knobs and keep them from dying, because they're 3 wounds apiece normally. Maybe they're probably not more. If they actually gain a wound, I'd be excited. But he can keep them from dying and falling off the table. And he gives the usual, the unit within 3 inches, a 6-up, feel no pain. So, you know what? I think my Pain Boy might end up getting back in my list. That's cool. I like that. Mad Doc Grotznick. I don't play him. We got the Runt Herd who does his so his Grotlash and Squig Hound actually have separate abilities now. I modeled mine with a Squig Hound because I like the Squig Hound, but the Grotlash is if a Gretchen unit's within 3 inches of his model, they add 1 inch to their move characteristics. I think they were like 4-inch move. I think they were really short. And this one is Gretchen infantry ignore modifiers to combat attrition tests because the Squig Hound's scaring them. So that I think is for any modifiers. So that means like when they suffer from other effects and such, it keeps them in line. But if you're bringing like, I just don't see the use of bringing a Runt Herd. I mean, like unless you're running the All Grot army, which is a fun and silly stratagem, you can bring some Runt Herds. And if your army is Battle Forge, you must include 1 Gretchen infantry unit for each Runt Herd in the detachment, and they do not take up slot in the detachment. So, so you can run 1 for 1, just dump a bunch of these guys, hide them behind your different Gretchen if you're running massive amounts of Gretchen. But then again, as I mentioned earlier, they made Gretchen slightly worse. So it's like, I don't know why. Burna Boy. So I mentioned it earlier. If you read on here, it's this unit must contain 1 spanner for every 4 Burna Boys, and that's just so stupid. I don't like it. However, the spanners can have their big shooters replaced by a custom Mega Blaster or a rocket launcher. They're not shown on these profiles, but we've seen them in other spots. So it's not the end of the world. It's fine. I mean, it's fine. But they are Assault D6, and if you do make them Pyromaniacs, then it's basically Assault D3 plus 2, essentially. Not really. It's 3 base on the roll. And, Strength 4. At least they're 12 inches like everyone else is now finally, and auto hits. And then they have their Pyromaniacs rule. If the unit is destroyed by an attack made with a Burna this unit, or by this unit, with a Burna by this unit, until your next turn, each time a morale test is taken for this unit, that it is automatically passed. You know what? I just realized something. They took away their melee profile, because before it was Strength User, AP minus 1 or 2 and damage. Oh, they took away their melee bonus and forced it to be a custom job. A stratagem. That sucks. That's really disappointing. That was actually, because that's one of the things I loved running Burna Boys for that reason. And then your spanners can do a Mechaniac, if the mall's nearby. So it only heals 1 wound, but whatever. That sucks. I guess, you could still technically run the Zap Krumpas, so they could do, with their 2 attacks apiece, you can do the 6s to wound. But especially now, if they're in close combat, you're in trouble. And that's so bad. They're not even that great of a unit. Why did they do that? They're bringing back the mech. That's kind of cool. I think that kind of half disappeared for a while. So they've got, Kill Saw, Custom Mega Slugga. They can replace the Choppa with the Kill Saw, and they can get a Grot Oiler. So, just a little, if you have the extra points and you want to throw them away, you can put them into a mech. All right, Tank Busters, here we go. This is one I was kind of more interested in. We have a pair of rocket pistols, as usual, the rocket launcher, and then the tank hammer. And as usual, it's the D6 mortal wounds, and then the barrel is destroyed because you basically strap a rocket to a handle and you slam it in the ground in front of you, and you're going to die.
And luckily, you don't have to take spanners for this unit. Not to be salty about that, but you have your bomb squigs. So for every 5 models in the unit, it can be equipped with up to 2 bomb squigs, and you can launch them out. And on a 3-up, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. So with my 10-pack, you can run 4 bomb squigs. But the problem is that the bomb squigs take up spaces in vehicles. So, like, I could run 10 with 2 bomb squigs, like I've talked about doing before. But I'd much rather reserve that for putting... Actually, I like to run my big mech and mega armor alongside them, so they have an extra shooting. But then if the vehicle goes down, then I stick the mega armor up in front, because that can tank a lot better than the tank bust does. Because they bust tanking, they don't do tanking themselves. And tank hunters, they get +1 to hit rolls as opposed to reroll hit rolls, because again, they take away all the rerolling stuff just to add. So I mean, that sucks because they're on ballistic skill 5. So you're only hitting on 4s now as opposed to hitting on 5s with rerolls. So it's what it is. Again, just kind of slightly disappointing, but not the end of the world. Commandos, I don't own those, so I'm skipping that. Mega Knobs, the one I was very excited about. You can actually have up to 10 in the unit, and basically only 10, so that way they actually could fit in a battle wagon. They start off with the Power Claw and Custom Shoot It, or you can build them how I do it with a double kill saw. And, that's pretty much it. The simple, basic profile. They are 3s to hit, strength 5, so they beat strength 10, 3 wounds for 3 attacks each. The basic stuff, nothing. Their profile didn't really change much at all, but with all those upgrades, hit them harder, and custom job to let them have more hits and all the other buffs. My Mega Knobs are going to get kitted out a little bit better now. I'm very excited. Knobs, I own them. I never use them, but I do own them. But they're the unit that can have literally everything in them, and you can equip them all sorts of ways. So, profile-wise, the only difference between them and boys now is they all have the same strength profile, but they have 1 extra wound and 1 extra leadership. Oh, and a better save, because I think the boys were only a 6-up. Let's hop back actually really quick. I'm jumping out of line. Yeah, t-shirt saves. Okay. Shock Jump Dragsta and Boom Dack Snaz Wagons. I don't own those, so we'll skip those. War Bikers, I wish I had them, but I don't. Custom Bloom Blast does. I don't have. I do have the Knob on Smash the Squig from that box. So, 10-inch moves, not bad. +1 to their toughness and 4 attack space, which is pretty good. Slugga, Big Choppa, and then you have your Smash the Squig Jaws, which are 2 extra attacks at a actually technically worse strength value than the Big Choppa, because the Big Choppa is strength 7 -1 for 2. They're strength 6 -1 for 2. So you have to separate the profiles because they just have to do it that way. But I mean, it's 6 attacks that can do 2 damage apiece at -1. I mean, he has the potential of wiping out a min squad of, Marines. So also Smash Ed, when he charges on a 4-up, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So, like earlier with that bounce around ability, if there's somebody that has 1 wound left, you can bounce into them, charge again, bounce into something else. And then the Squig Boss, it's for each Squig Hog Boys in the unit, you can take 2 of these guys without taking up any battlefield roll slots, which is nice because they're fast attack, and you don't want to lose your fast attack slot. So, and since you're going to be running Squig Hog Boys anyways from that box, it's just kind of what it is. Rocket Truck Squig Buggies, I don't own. Megatrack Scrapjet, so I do own that. Also 10-inch. Heavy 3D3 on the rocket cannon. The twin big shooter is DACA 10/6 with a Grot Gunner that gives you +1 to hit, so you're hitting on 4s with those. So that's a good number of attacks. Wing missiles at the target vehicles, they get +1 to hit rolls, and it's only 1 assault this time. So it's an assault too, but heavy 3D3, which means you can't advance with them and shoot that. That sucks. That should have been assault 3D3. That's just ridiculous. Nose drill, usual with +2 strength, so strength 8 -2 D3. Basically a melee rocket.
Spiked Ram on a 4-up deals D3 mortal wounds after a charge. Combine that with all these other things. Like, you could literally mortal wound your opponents to death with all the different charge bonus stuff they have. And then you have the explodes, which, if you careen, you can get them out of the way and blow things up in good times. Storm Boys, I don't own. Squig Hog Boys, I do own now, and they're in the box. Basically, you have your Saddle Git, who has a couple of weak little bonus attacks, and then your Stickas that they use, which are literally spears with guns on the tips of them. They have Assault 1 for the shooting, and if you're in half range, you go Strength 6 instead of Strength 5. But they're -2 for 2 damage, so that's kind of nice. And then in melee, your sticks are Strength 6 -2 for 2 damage, so, essentially they get stronger when you're up closer. And then the Squig Haw Jaws, which are Strength 6 -1 for 2 damage for an extra attack. So they only have 3 attacks each. So they have 5 attacks, which is kind of nice. And you have a Bomb Squig that rolls with them, too. So, a little cavalry. If you get a bunch of these guys and you start running the Squig herd stuff, they can be pretty effective. But we'll see. We'll see how well they play. We will see how well they play. And they're, of course, Beast Snag. It's a +1 to hit versus vehicles and monsters, and 6-up invuln. Def Coptas. So I read this one for sure yesterday. Here's kind of first disappointment. It's 3 to 6 now, not 1 to 6. Actually, I think it was 1 to 5 before. Still a 14-inch, same profile as before. The Copter rockets are heavy 2d3 as opposed to the Assault 2. So that again is a huge bummer. So you may end up earning them as custom Mega Blasters because then they're Assault, so you can still advance and shoot with them. And you have the chance of suffering mortal wounds, but that's just how it goes. And the Spinning Blades are back with Strength 5 -1 for 1 damage, but you get 3 attacks per each, so you actually have 6 attacks. But actually, that's better because before it was D3 hit rolls instead of 1. So you actually have 6 attacks per Def Copta at Strength 5 -1 for 1. So basically, really, if you look at it, it's almost like just basically a better version of the Choppa. But that would make sense when you're using helicopter blades as weapons. They also have the Big Bomb, once per battle. You can select 1 point on the battlefield. The bear moves across this phase and do 4-up, do D3 mortal wounds. So, bombing run. And for every 3 models, this unit contains 1 Copter rocket can be placed with a Mega Blasta and a Big Bomb. So they have a new kit coming out. Basically, they're just modding it to the kit. So you can have your Assault and you get 1 attack that can move, or you can just regular move, which 14 inches isn't the end of the world. And you can give them buffs to get them more movement. And they are technically a speed freaks. So if you're in the Evil Sons, they have a 16-inch move. So like before, you'd advance, and they do have the big red button, so they advance automatically for 6 inches. So, 23-inch, threat range. But to be fair, I never really moved them all like that much for the most part. I usually just moved them up into buildings to control objectives and to fly around and be a distraction. But having 3, I own 3, but the fact that I'm forced to take 3, kind of a bummer. But, oh well, that's how it goes. However, they do have Swooping Down. Basically free deep strike deployment. So, it's alright. It's alright, Mech Guns, the other unit that took the big fall. Notice the unit size is no longer 1 to 6, it's now 1 to 3, and they no longer have the rule where they separate after deploying. That's right, the Mech Guns and the Def Dreads lost that rule. So now when you drop them, you actually have to suffer all the effects and consequences. So if you notice, Smash Gun's no longer the 2d6 better than toughness, it's just blast. It's got the best AP still, but it is what it is. And the Tractor Cannon, it doesn't have the auto hits. It's just that depending on what type of vehicle, it gets bonuses to hits, and otherwise D6 plus 3 damage if it's a vehicle that can fly. And against a non-aircraft unit, add 1 to the hit roll, so it's always hitting on 3s actually instead of 4s. So it's slightly, it's all right. But I may actually go through and convert, because all my mech guns are magnetized, and put the custom mega cannons on all of them, because I've been thinking about doing that, but now I may actually do it. It's shorter range, but the tables are smaller, so that's not bad. And the blast is any modified hit rolls of 1 are made for attacks with this weapon, suffer 1 more wound. That's not terrible, because now you have 3 of them shooting instead of being 3 separate units. If you rolled 2 1s, you only suffer 1 mortal wound, and they go on to 1 mech gun. And next turn, you roll 2 1s to hit again, only 1 mortal wound on the same mech gun. So instead of having the risk of doing lots of mortal wounds across all of your guys, it consolidates. So, but you do have to select all your targets at the same time. So before it was nice because you could kind of cherry pick, because you say, this guy's going to shoot now, you shoot, you kill. This one's going to shoot now, let's shoot, kill. So now you have to actually pick all 3 to shoot at the same time. So, you know, if you dedicate all of them into one unit and it gets destroyed by the first one, the other 2 batches are wasted. So, bummer. And then, you know, artillery crew. And so they automatically start off with the smasher guns. That's actually the rules say they start with the smasher gun, and then you can upgrade it to either the bubble chukka, which I should probably mention now has a D3 profile, which you roll after selecting the target. So you can either do lots of weakest shots, medium out, moderate shots, or 1 really heavy shot, as usual, as per the bubble chukka way. All right, guys, we're getting through it. We're towards the end of the profiles, so I know it's getting long, but we're having fun here. I'm having fun here. So Battle Wagon. First off, I have to say this is the first time looking at this, and the red numbers, I love that. That you pay attention to what's changing. It's easier than being like, oh, what am I looking at? So noticing that the number of attacks decreases as it takes more wounds. That's all right. That's what it was before, so it's not the end of the world. But the strength goes down too, so that's kind of a bummer. So, you know, luckily there's big mechanics. So then you have your kill cannons, just a big blast. The lava can target units that are not visible to the carrier. I may actually start using the lava now because of that other stratagem of the slowdown. So that'll be kind of nice. You know, there's a zap gun, which works just like the shock attack gun. Death Rolla, which each time it attacks me with this weapon, treat the bearer as having a weapon skill characteristic of a 2+. Now you notice it's different wording. Before it was add 3 to the hit rolls, but now in the new rules that there's a cap on the number of on the +1 or -1 to hit. I realized just now that I've been playing it wrong before because the wording was only up to +1, so I was only actually able to hit on 4s. It now changes it 5 up to hit straight to a 2 up to hit. So that's basically wording to adjust to the 9th edition way of doing things. But strength +1, so it's strength 9 or 7 or 5, -2 for 2 flat damage. Yeah, you see why I was able to do a ton of damage before against the Lord Discordant with that -2 there. And then Grab and Claw, get 1 extra attack at strength profile for -3 for 2 damage. And then the Wrecking Ball is another one you can take, which gets you another profile, which is a flat +2 to strength, -1 for 2 damage. So you can really equip these guys to do a lot of damage. So they have the open top. So a lot of the transport vehicles have open top, which allows you to shoot accordingly. They can treat units that moved, advanced, or fell back as the same as, the unit that's... The guys inside basically are treated as being inside, but they can still shoot. Each unit within 6 inches takes d6 more wounds if you explode. And transport, as everyone's probably heard, Wrecka can now be transported. Counts as 18 of the 20 space, 20 models that fit into it. If you give him a kill cannon, it can only take 12 models. Otherwise, it's 20 models. Mega armor, jump pack, take up space of 2 models. And it has to have the Goth keyword to transport Wrecka. So, usual, typical. All right. So this is a generic one. Here's Bonebreaker. So it has the same kind of profile. If you notice, this one can transport 12 straight up. So its wording's the same, but you can only take 12. Bonebreaker Ram. So the red roller we saw earlier. This one gives you D6 bonus attacks to the attack characteristic of this model, as opposed to D3 plus 3, which is the upgraded one. So guaranteed more attacks. So, but yeah, so if you have full profiles, 6 attacks. So if you think D6 additional attacks when you charge, so you possibly have 12 attacks with the Death Rolla, with hitting on 2s, wounding on strength 9, -2 for 2 damage for 12. Yeah, you could literally mow your way through pretty much everything. So, and if you notice, the Battle Wagons all have that Ramshackle rule now, so they take 1 less damage from strength 8 or better weapons. So definitely a bit tankier. Still at 16 wounds, so that's nice. I can't ask for more than that. Gun Wagon. This is the shooty version of the gun. This can transport 12 because it has to take a kill cannon. You get +1 to hit with your big cannon that sits on top.
and that's pretty much their bonus. So, you know, pretty much all three ones are the same. The Battle Wagon's cheaper than the other two, but the Bonebreaker is better for melee. The Gun Wagon's better for shooting. They can all still transport units, so that's kind of nice. So Killicans I don't own yet, but do want to point out that their weapons got considerably better with the heavy 2d3 Gartzuka and the rocket launcher being heavy d3. So, and the Can Claws +3 strength, -3 AP for 3 damage. So strength 8, -3 for 3. I mean, that's actually kind of a big deal for the little guys that have 3 attacks. And they get +1 to attacks if they have at least 3 or more models. You can run them in units of 6. So if you run them as a 6-pack with 4 attacks each at that, you know, Can Claw model, that's, I mean, they could actually have a good punch. So I'm considering getting some of those once I win the lottery. So Ludas, you notice the Death Gun is no longer a D3 for the whole unit. It's flat deck of 3/2. That's better. It's better. Like, you don't have to, because you don't have to risk rolling a 1 and then having to re-roll and all that. So, I mean, yeah, you miss out on the D3 opportunity, but 48 inches, you're doing 2 shots each, or you're doing 3 shots if you are within 24 inches, which everyone's going to come closer. And otherwise, that's good. That's a good change up. Unfortunately, once again, you're forced to take the Spanas, which are worse, but you can at least give them the, you know, the blast weapon, and they have the Mechaniac. But I think it's a fair trade because guaranteed 2 or 3 on 8 guys as opposed to D3 on 10, your average potential is better overall, I think, statistically ish. Okay. So, you know, I was bummed about the Spanners being forced in, but, you know, for the Ludas, I'm not so bummed as I am with the Burnas. So, Duff Dreads. Also, if you notice, this one's 1 to 3, and they no longer separate either, like I mentioned earlier. You also notice they no longer have the Dredge Saw. They're just Dread Claws now, which is very nice, and it's each time I fight, it makes 1 additional attack with this weapon. So I no longer have to split my attacks. There's also 3 attack space now as opposed to 2, so they get 1 extra attack. So, you know, I run Quad Claws, you may have seen. So I'll have 7 attacks at strength 10, -3 for 3 damage each. So they can wreck units pretty well. And then Dread Mob. Oh. They kept the Dread Mob. I thought they... Oh, no. My problem was before... So Dread Mob, they still get to separate after they deploy. But the custom jobs, you can't give the custom jobs if the unit has more than 1. So you can't give them any of the custom job rules, but they still have, they still have the Dread Mob. I take back any of my complaining I was mentioning earlier. So my strategy with them is still valid, and I can still teleport to them. So cool, I like that. Unfortunately, the teleporter is flat 2 command points instead of 1, so that's not as good, but that's okay. Nice. And then I'll just save my custom job for something else in the list. So cool. Killrig, this is the new ones. Just a thing to note, Killrig's a psyker. So, and its Word Tower has Assault D3 if you get Psychic Power off, and it's an auto hit. So Strength 9 -3 for D6 damage can do a lot of damage. So I really want to get one of these rigs. I also have a conversion idea, which I'm not going to announce, but I've been told a clever idea. Flash kits, I do not own. Hunter rig is the other build from the Kill rig. This is the non-psyker version. Truck. You know, usual profile change options. The big shooter, you know, grab and claw, wrecking ball, same as before. Open topped, explodes, and it has the ramshackle, and it can support 12 models. So, you know, not much changed here. Just a good old truck. Burner Bomber. This is the one I do own, so I'll skip the other flyers. We're getting to the end of it, I promise. Scorcher Missile Racks is Assault 2d6, and targets do not receive the benefit of cover against this attack. Strength 6 -2 damage for AP 1, and then there's that stratagem that lets you do a mortal wound after the attack. So, you know, it's not too bad. Super Shooter and Twin Big Shooters are a bunch of DACA, and they have the Grot Gunner for the Twin Big Shooter, so it's +1 to hit on their ballistic skill. That's 5 up until they have 1 to 3 wounds, and then it goes to a 6 up. Airborne, hard to hit, -1 hit, you know, the usual. Supersonic, you know, pivots on the spot, moves straight forward, typical rules. It has just a basic explodes. It doesn't have the super explode that they used to have, so just does D3 mortal wounds to enemies within 6. The Dakajet, which I wish I had. It can be equipped with 2 additional super shooters. So it comes with 4 super shooters, which are DAC. Oh gosh. So it has 4 super shooters, which are DACA 6/4. It can have 2 additional, so it can have 6 super shooters with DACA 6/4. That means that it has 24 or 36 shots. But since they are separate profiles, you can split them up against several different targets. Of course, why would you? When you can dump 36 DACA shots, strength 6 minus 1 into 1 damage into your target of choice. Like, yeah, that's pretty exciting. And the Blitzbomber has its Boom Bomb, which does the mortal wounds on the bombing run type of a thing. So they took away the bomber run from the Burner Bomber, so it's kind of lame. Actually, let me go back and double check because he's just got the airborne Grot Sonic. So, no, there's a Burner Bomb. Here, my bad. So this one is the one that targets models within 6 inches of the drop point, and they on a 5-up suffer a mortal wound. So ground clearing, lots of little guys. Whereas the Blitzbomber targets a unit, each unit within 6 inches of that point, and they suffer either D3 mortal wounds or D6 mortal wounds. So, anti-elite, Burner Bomber's anti-horde as usual, and then the Wazbomb Blastojet, which I'll probably never own, so I'm not going to bother looking at that. All right, Morkanot, Gorkanot. I don't own these, but look at the symbol. Yes, these are now Lords of War, which I personally think was a big mistake, because now you have to pay 3 command points to bring them. So it's just like, that's great. I'll probably never get them. And then you have your Stampa, who has this big profile. The big announcement, though, they did reduce his points by like almost 200 points, which is really nice. So that's great. Mech Boy Workshop. So this got a little bit upgraded. I do have this technically, but I don't ever bring it because you still have to pay points to bring it, I believe. It gives +1 for healing of the big mechanic rules. I'll add what he's having. Each custom job can be selected twice for your army instead of once. Each model can still only have 1 custom job. So this is nice because you can pick 2 different custom jobs, or you can select it twice instead of once. So you can instead of being 2 separate custom jobs, you can take the same custom job twice. So like the mobile fortress where you have a 5-up invuln, I can give it to my wagon and my truck, for example. I think the truck was the other one. It was wagon something else, but you can spread it out a little bit. So situational but nice. I got just a thing. You can also get a bonus action you can do. It's where the vehicle has to remain stationary. It's complete at the end of turn. You select 1 custom job that vehicle is eligible for, and it gets added to your army. And they gain it. And roll a 1. And so basically what you do is those custom jobs on the previous page, you can give 1 to the unit if the unit doesn't move. It has to at least remain within 3 inches until the thing is moved. So it can move around, but it has to stay within 3 inches. And at the end of your turn, you can give a free custom job to them. But at the end of each battle round, you roll a d6 for each custom job. And on a 1, the custom job falls off and you can't get it back. So it's kind of a way of spreading out those custom jobs. So like you can have your gun wagon that sits in the back and you want them to shoot. You can give it mobile fortress right there, so you don't have to use it up earlier. And then it has its 5-up invuln until it falls off on a 1. So I think it's definitely better, because the old rules were like temporary, like until end of turn, this unit gets this 1 bonus, and the bonus is really crappy, and you had to be within an inch to trigger, and it's really stupid. And the Big Ed Boss Bunka, which is the new transport. Well, it's not really a transport unit. Because it has a move profile of 0. But basically it's got this super laser cannon out of its eye, and the bearer gains the War Boss models, War Boss, Beast Boss, or Flashiest Yit's aura ability. So if you have a War Boss inside of there, it spreads its aura abilities out, so +1 to hit rolls and stuff, or whatever bonuses they have, and it can have extra big shooters. So it's kind of silly. You just it's a bunker, and it's literally a boss bunker. So, well, folks, I think we're getting to the end of the line. These are the weapon profiles we've been talking about this whole time. I'm not really worried about going into that. There's the point values here. I'm going to leave those off. And then we got our glossary references. So, okay. Well, folks, it's been almost 3 hours of doing this. I hope you guys have been enjoying watching. There's definitely, like I've seen here, there's definitely some trade-offs. Overall, I still see there's some potential for some good stuff, but I don't see them making it to the top of the tournaments unless you have one of the master war bosses in control of them. But, you know, for non-tournament play, as usual, orcs are always a fun match. A lot of their chaotic elements have been taken away because that's just how Games Workshop's been doing things lately. But otherwise, they have, you know, they have some fun stuff. They still have potential for some interesting, wacky combinations. I definitely, for myself, my Mega Knobs got a huge buff. I'm really excited about the Big Mech and Mega Armor, and the War Boss. I felt like got some good buffs as well. Well, you know, buffs or rule updates and such. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you know, it's easy to read on paper, but until you're actually in a game and actually battling it out, it's hard to see how everything will work out. But we'll see. I told my group that I was taking a break from 40K until this came into my hands. Now it's in my hands, so let's begin to play. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and do one last pan shot of this really awesome looking picture. I hope you guys really enjoyed watching this. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you have anything that you saw that you had questions about, if there was any combinations I might have missed, or any models where you're like, hey, this one actually could work really well because of this, this, or this, you know, please bring it to my attention, and I'll say, okay, that could work. Or I could say, well, that won't work because of this, or blah, 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 blah. So, well, my voice is getting tired. I think I was supposed to leave my house like an hour ago to go do something, but this was important. So I hope you guys like this. Again, like, comment, subscribe. This has been Nathan with Semi-Casual Gaming, signing out.